The concept of auto-hoaxing, or preemptively calling out things as fake if they're not accompanied by evidence and their extraordinary claims, that's a philosophical approach. And it is in defense of reality. So if we're in a war here, and I think we are, which is between real versus fake, if you're auto-hoaxing, you would be defending the real. Now, if you're augmenting the real with spinning balls in space, pseudo-news, fake science, psyops, or mysticism, or miracles, if you're augmenting the reality with the subjective experiences, you're no longer on the side of real. Auto-hoaxing. On the side of real. You have stepped into the territory.
This is JT33's Fake War. I've been going through some old tracks, trying to include things in the 24/7, so expect more from the catalog of JT33 and many others. Thanks everyone for joining. I sent out text message notifications, so you should have received those, and thanks again to John the Plumber, Infinite Muse, and many others who have been contributing to keep this thing going full steam. Let's see what we have here in the chats. Okay, last time we were here, we were talking about John Denver running for Senate. John Denver, death faker, come back as Vincent Fuchsia, believed to be JFK Jr. by the Kool-Aid drinkers, but now running for Senate. That's happening. All right, let me go through comments and just see who's back. We'll give everyone a few moments to show up. We were talking about, again, the return of John Denver, but also we were talking about the meta script itself, the storyline they're all following. We've been covering this idea of climate change lockdowns, which is a thing. In fact, let me go ahead and play a clip. Allergic to Bullshit on Twitter posted this. This is a clip describing your very near future and how it's really just a continuation of COVID 1984.
W, Chevron, BP, Dow, DuPont, Google, IBM, IKEA, Kellogg's, Nestle, Procter & Gamble. It just keeps going. This was published way back in October 2020, so it's not even a new thing. They say in the near future, the world may need to resort to lockdowns again, this time to tackle a climate emergency. Wait, how could the climate create an emergency that we need a lockdown to solve? Who cares? They say under a climate lockdown, governments would limit private vehicle use, ban the consumption of red meat, and impose extreme energy-saving measures. Fossil fuel companies would have to stop drilling. To avoid such a scenario, we have to overhaul economics and do capitalism differently.
Do capitalism differently, huh? It's almost like the environmentalist agenda has just been a stalking horse for the advancement of global communism or something. But anyway, we called it here, climate lockdowns. It's going to be a thing. And I've been saying for some time now, if you believe the science of global warming, you're a darn hypocrite if you still have a car that runs on dino juice. You ought to get rid of that car and lock down. I've been saying this for some time. It's like if you believe in the very premise of lockdowns for the pandemic, well, the same experts will tell you lock down for the climate. So what are you waiting for? A mandate? Why do you need a mandate to do something you believe in? You're not going to do it until the people who don't believe in it are mandated to do it? How much sense does that make? I do not understand the fascists. I saw one recently, like an hour ago at the store. You know, there's no mandate, but he's got the thing on his face, the dirty sock on his face to keep him safe from MAGAs or whatever. And I'm looking at him thinking, okay, there's no mandate. Why is this guy wearing this thing? It's a fascist statement. He is in solidarity with the fascist global takeover of everything, with the false pretext of saving us from that, this or that, the flood, the pandemic, whatever it happens to be. Yeah, it's a fascist statement. It's like, I support Big Brother. That's what it says. That's what the dirty sock on the face uniform says. Remember that thing that Orwell said about the boot on the human face forever? It's a dirty sock on the face. I mean, he almost got it right there. Let me see if I can get the quote. Again, the phone number is 833-311-1984. The year it is, the year it was, the year it will always be. If you want a picture of the future, imagine a dirty sock stamping on a human face forever. George Orwell, 1984. And it's way too late to prove him wrong. Way too late. In the chat, John asks, "What's the name of the crisis actor mentioned on Friday night? It was hilarious, but I probably Wayne L. Sexton. I don't know. There's so many. Oh wait, no, it was Maggie the Block. Not a crisis actor, but that's a minister of unhealth. Then there was Rose Boylan who got trampled. God, there are so many crisis actors, and that's what we do here. We keep up with the Kardashians, with the crisis actors. You kind of do have Kardashians of crisis actors. Like you have all the crisis actors out there who are just backstage, like in the background, like extras. They get run over, nobody really cries. It's just another number, another notch. But then you have the celebrity crisis actors, the David Hoggses of the world. I would call them the Kardashians of crisis acting. Infinite Plane Radio. Hey, what's up, caller? How are you? Okay, just one moment here. We have a slight delay. It's the first call. It has to warm up. Give it just a moment.
All right.
Okay, there we go. We're in. Hey, what's up? Hear you loud and clear.
Hey, great shows the last couple of days.
Hey, I appreciate it. Thank you. And thanks for leaving the voicemails too. I haven't even got to them, but I appreciate everyone who calls in, especially leaving voicemails so I know in advance, things to address.
Well, I was going to leave you a voicemail, but I kind of thought this one might be a little drawn out a little bit. So it kind of goes along with like the Metascript.
Cool. We have all night for
So
sure.
like the NCAA tournament right now is a big deal. And of course, when COVID happened, it was one of the first things that they canceled was the NCAA tournament. And I remember telling everyone, if you guys think March Madness has been canceled, then think again because it's just getting started, So this year on Wednesday night, my friend called me up and he does a bracket at work or whatever. So they watch the games while they're working. And so I just asked him, I was like, well, who won the national championship 33 years ago? So we looked back, and it was in 1989, and it was the Michigan Wolverines. And so I was like, okay. And I was like, what color, like what team wears blue and yellow? And he was like, Michigan does. I'm like, sweet. And so the next day, they had won their first game. And they were 14-1 to win it after their first win. The second, after they had their first win, they went from 14-1 to 33-1 were the odds to win it, which we thought was really weird because you would have thought it would have gone down a little bit, but it went anyway. It went to 33-1 for the odds for them to win.
Okay,
and
so
it's
Michigan,
kind of interesting.
Yeah, you're saying 33 years ago.
Michigan also is a Wolverine, right? And I looked to see where the Wolverine, like where its like native land is, and it's in Russia.
Okay, that's very fascinating, especially when you consider like Red Dawn, the movie about the Russian takeover communist thing, and the resistance were the Wolverines.
Right?
And I'm looking here, I'm seeing Michigan Wolverines, blue and yellow. And the 33
Blue and
thing,
yellow.
these things repeating.
No.
Mark Twain said, history doesn't repeat, but it rhymes. No, it's repeating. I was at first in agreement with him, but no, it's literally repeating. So that's fascinating.
Yeah, and the coach for Michigan right now, I guess he was on the Fab Five. So he was on the team that won the championship in '89. So that's just like another thing that kind of matches up. And then, like during the Super Bowl, everyone was trying to like run the numbers with gematria and all this stuff. But really, like looking back on like the Super Bowl, because of what's going on in Ukraine, it made sense that the Rams won it, and the Rams wear
blue and
yellow.
yellow. Right. Yeah,
Right.
I don't think that's a coincidence either. This is too contrived. It's
No.
obviously.
And I had a friend that showed me all these COVID signs. Like you can just look them up on your phone. They're all blue and yellow.
Yeah, I've seen that. And some could say you're cherry picking or we're cherry picking, but however, from a bigger metascript, step away, look at the bigger perspective, you can say that, yeah, we were prepared psychologically, I think. We were prepared with all the imagery and color symbolism for this red and yellow thing and to side with red and yellow. And I was seeing this in various coercive, subtle ways. Like someone orders a print-on-demand coffee mug, and the print company says, "Do you want us to put yellow and blue in the background?" And I'm like, "Why?" I had no idea.
Right.
And I find out, oh, it's a war, and I got to side with these guys. I see. I see the script.
Yeah, and like Confucius said, the world is not run by, words and language, but it's run by signs and symbols. So they use this stuff against us all the time. And now, after listening to, people like you that talk about like breaking down, like reading through the news, BS, reading the numbers and kind of the overall agenda, it just, when we were talking about it, I just kind of reversed engineered like maybe an outcome, which is stupid. It's just a basketball game, right? But it would be interesting if a blue and yellow team won just because of that subliminal imaging.
Yeah, there is this thing though. There is a consistent pattern, and so we're not wrong here. And I'm doing a lot of pattern analysis. That's what we're just noticing things, and it's so consistent. So, for example, you can see in the movies how they prepare us for things that are about to happen. You had Servant of the People, where the president of Ukraine pretty much shows us his performance. That, or rather, a kind of a he prepares us for his emergence on the world stage in this present role. But it was purely straight out of the
Yeah,
movie.
that was on Netflix. Yeah.
Netflix, exactly.
Yeah,
Netflix. I mean, come
yeah,
on. Netflix is literally
exactly.
like a scrying mirror for the future. And we talked about this yesterday, how the co-founder is the nephew of Edward Bernays. And hey, here's another one.
Bernays, yeah.
Did you see the new Batman movie yet?
I tried to find it on. I haven't seen it. No, I got to watch it.
Okay, it'll be out next month on streaming if you don't want to go out to the theater and sit there for 3 hours, and I don't. But what I saw here, someone sent this to me. The main villain looks exactly like Bill Gates. Bowl cut nerd with glasses, kind of. You can kind of see it, but
Hmm.
it's like a twin. So we're not wrong when
Isn't
we're
it crazy? Like yeah, no, we're not, and we just have been trained to look at it differently,
okay. Hey, Tominoid in
right?
the chat here points out there's an X-Men character who wears blue and yellow. Care to guess who it is?
Yeah, it's a Wolverine, exactly. So whenever we were looking at like who could win the championship, you got how many 64 teams or whatever. I just was like, well, let's just look at who won it 33 years ago, and then we'll just break it down from there. And then it went from the blue and yellow to the Wolverine, and
Fascinating,
so
fascinating, because yeah, that's so consistent. And I often find that this predictive programming does tie in the comic book world, the Marvel universe, the Netflix verse. It ties in all of this. That's why we say it's a metascript analysis, because this is
all of it, dude.
all encompassing and it's
It's like
monolithic.
like Cam Newton. Cam Newton pretends like he's Superman, or you know what I mean. So they're in all of these things are intertwined, like you're saying, very much so.
Yeah, and the Batman thing is
And I figure
fascinating too.
because so many. What's that? Say one more time.
The Batman thing, because it's consistent. I mean, I've been looking at the Batman Joker tie-ins to big psyops, and it's been pretty obvious since the Boston bombing. But you can see 9/11 tie-ins to all of it. So anyway, this new Batman movie obviously contains the same. Doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, I wanted to see it. I mean, the last Joker movie, they were out and doing riots with the mask on. So that was a lot of predictive programming. Um,
Check this out. It
and
came
of
out on
course,
March 4th. And on March 4th, the Boston bomber, Joker Sarnev, had his death penalty
when he was in
reinstated.
court.
His death penalty was
Oh,
reinstated on the day Batman was released.
oh, no kidding! This last year, huh?
Yep, just
I
earlier
didn't,
this
I
earlier
didn't
this
realize
month.
that.
I'm like, wait, Joker,
Yeah,
Joker Sarnev is in the
that
news on 3/4 the day Batman's out, and it's like, oh, they're gonna kill him. Fascinating.
I've heard his last name is Joker. So naive,
Right.
right? And
Yes.
so it's just more like in your face, laughing at you, and it's nice to like be able to look at the news and kind of break it down. I try not to watch any of it, but still,
Well, the stories are there. So the Joker's on the loose, and then what do they do after the Boston bombing? You have the police come out with their SWAT teams, their APCs, their body armor. So they come out with their Batman suits. So the response to the Joker, the
Yep.
Chaos Agent, is they send out the Batman, and that's the pattern. It's chaos, order, order out of chaos, and it's a very consistent thing that they've done this whole time. And they happen to use these two characters in these movies to illustrate this this way they operate. And you mentioned the Joker movie preceding the summer of riots. So I'm guessing that the Batman movie will probably, I would imagine, precede a summer of like a backlash. So I don't think we're going to see BLM burning things down. We're probably going to see right wing violence. And I'm expecting it all to be fake. But yeah, that's kind of what I'm expecting.
Yep. And they'll set up obviously, you know, people that are anti-mask, people that are anti-lockdown, and the Q group, and they'll pin it on them,
Oh, in
or
fact, yeah, there's a
people
Q.
like me, I guess.
There's the Riddler character, who I believe, and I have to watch this. Someone had said, look at the Riddler, because I'm thinking about Q and question marks and how inconvenient it is for people to ask, questions. And I believe that there
Questions. Yeah.
might be a QAnon connection. Here it is. This is an article. They keep saying that this movie has a Riddler for the QAnon age. So there's a QAnon tie-in with this movie.
Huh. Well, didn't I think there was a TV show like Reno 911 did an episode where they were looking for QAnon.
Yeah, that's right. They had a
So
special on that
it
one.
really wouldn't surprise it. Yeah, I think they did a special. So it that psyop really has that one's pretty amazing what it's been able to do. Of course, you've broken it down quite a bit, and it's been pretty. I know people that still think they're like trust the plan, and I'm just like, you really got to kiss them on the forehead because there's no help for them, you
Yeah,
know.
that's Operation
But
Trust. It's a psyop, in my opinion.
that's
But
right.
Batman, by the way, the QAnoners they call Trump Batman because he called
Yeah.
himself Batman to some kid when he was on Air Force One, and they refer to Kamala as the Joker frequently. In fact, even the Washington Post called her the Joker because she laughs and kind of looks like the Joker.
If you go watch the Batman, the one that came after Heath Ledger's Joker, I think it was, I don't know which one it was, but it was the one that has Bane in it. He sounds just like Trump during a speech when he like takes over the whatever Gotham City or whatever. He sounds just like Trump's speech on his inauguration day.
Fascinating,
It's pretty
Bane.
uncanny.
And that was
So,
that was the Batman Dark Knight Rises, where you have the stadium blow up, except for box number 322. A ton of predictive programming in that one, pointing at
oh
some,
yeah, that's right.
and it is pointing to, in my opinion, I think we're being set up to expect right wing violence. That's just you can like the predictive programming is walking us there. And like I said, the Joker movie preceded left wing uprising. I'm expecting the opposite, and that was also contrived, provocateured. I mean, there's real people involved in these things, but like the big parts, like the big psyops, are usually things that are completely planned in advance. And there have been so many reports, and then that's what they were drilling for in North Carolina in 24 counties for what they're now calling DVEs, domestic violent extremists.
Hmm. Well, it doesn't surprise me. It was just like earlier you said, history, it rhymes. No, it repeats itself. I mean, look at what they did with OKC and Timothy McVeigh, which is all connected to really, I think, probably what's going on today to some degree. You
100%.
know,
It really, really is because uh, the media makes it sound like the Turner Diaries is the Bible of the domestic violent extremists, and that's a book about race war that is created
right?
by the white nationalists, and they basically nuke everybody else after they shut down things in America. But anyway, yeah, that book shouldn't be relevant, but it became relevant suddenly in 2020, and now it's being bandied about. But that's what was said to have inspired Timothy McVeigh. And for context, McVeigh is like the OBL, the Osama bin Laden of the white nationalists. It's the same kind of archetype. That's why they executed him at the age of 33.
On 6/11.
Right, an upside
right?
down
June
9/11.
11th.
Yes, an inverted
That's right.
9/11. So I would say that even that a domestic terrorist doing a 9/11 would be an inverted 9/11 by definition, which is in the one from the outside. Like I think there's a story here that's it's mirrored, and these things are so intricate, but they're so perfectly discernible. These patterns, like so, for example, the guy who wrote the Turner Diaries was born on 9/11, 1933. It inspires a guy who does a 9/11 here and then dies at 33. But again, this is all scripted, and it goes far. It goes that far back.
Right, and the Oklahoma City was happened on the 2-year anniversary of the Waco deal, and that was all connected, you know, under the same president. And
Yes.
so, and like with the Turner Diaries, it reminds me of like any assassin probably is going to have the catcher in the rye, like multiple copies on
Yeah,
them,
that's true.
So it's kind
You,
of like that same narrative.
if you look at any of the most recent violent extremists picked up, you'll find that they happen to have, conveniently, a copy of the Turner Diaries. And anyone who hasn't compared this, you got to look at the cover of the Turner Diaries and compare it to the McCloskeys, who confronted Black Lives Matter on their lawn while they were carrying. He had a rifle and she had a pistol, because that picture of the McCloskeys, who also came out in defense of Kyle Rittenhouse, it's lifted right off of the
Yep.
cover of this book from 42 years prior. And I was like, wow, they brought the Turner Diaries to life, McCloskeys. And it's so obvious because she's wearing this shirt like a Hamburglar, the black and white stripes, and then he's got a tight polo, and they're posing. And you can see them posing this way. And I followed the McCloskeys for a little bit just to see what they were doing. And when they were he was running for
Yep.
some kind of political office, and they were still wearing the same dumb
Yeah,
uniform.
he came to my town. I live in Missouri. He came into my town for, before I think he got elected, but he came into town, I don't know, 6 or 7 months ago. And they were like celebrities because of the Drudge Report. I think the Drudge probably carried that picture and they got like the most attention from
Yes.
like red, red pills or not red pills, but like conservatives from like Drudge, even though Drudge is really not that conservative. But you know, all these people are there. They really are actors. These are really actors playing out a script, like you say. Like they are given a script and they play it out to a T, and it is a lot of schisms,
Yeah, it's funny
a
that they
lot
would
of
come
different
out
ways to
as
divide the country.
like they're supposed to be right-wing heroes or something, and defenders of their of the Second Amendment, property rights or whatever. They're standing up to the commies, but when it comes down to it, they're actors creating caricatures that are being used to demonize the people that support them. I mean, these are clearly actors, and they staged it this way to invoke the Turner Diaries, a man and a woman defending themselves against the communist hordes from the New World Order. And they literally took the same shirt, the Hamburglar shirt, and it's so perfectly orchestrated. And then I see them on tour dressed like this, and so like it's all about the image. It's all about the icon here and what they stand
Yep.
for. And from the left's perspective, here you have some rich people with a big, giant mansion empty nest surrounded by homeless people, mostly minorities. And so it sends a different picture. Oh, capitalism rewards certain people and not others. And then they show up at Kyle Rittenhouse's uh, when they read his verdict. And so it's like you see
Yep.
now he's associated with the McCloskeys. It's
With
in.
them and
Yep.
yeah, the Proud Boys and all of that. And it's like the whole Kyle Rittenhouse thing, there's a lot of questions behind that deal as well. Especially finding out that him and Greta have the same birthday. There's just a lot of, not predictive programming, but again, the meta script, right? It's all right there in the shadows.
Yeah, in my opinion, Kyle
And
Rittenhouse would not be tweeting memes at LeBron James and trying to become some kind of right wing, alt right celebrity, like some kind of like Louder with Crowder type. Like he's becoming this sort of entertainer with his Twitter account and stuff. And I'm just thinking if this was real, he'd be under witness protection.
right,
And by the way, his
exactly,
Instagram,
dude. Or
look at his TikTok. It's Kyle Rittenhouse 33. Just a little clue
oh,
there.
is it really?
Yes, Kyle Rittenhouse
That's so
33. That's his
crazy.
TikTok.
Yeah. So it's like, again, kind of, out in front of your face. But you're doing an awesome job. Keep up the good work. And I think you said this last week. Instead of grabbing ammo, grab the popcorn, because there's really nothing really to be afraid of.
Yeah, exactly.
So
Yeah, I appreciate that, and definitely thank you for the call and for
yeah,
leaving voicemails, and also
keep
what
up
you
the good
pointed
work,
out,
man.
the Wolverine thing. Good find there, and we'll continue to dig
Yeah.
down on that trail. Thanks.
Well, hopefully they win for my buddy's sake. Since you put a little bit of money on it. But yeah, we'll talk to you later, man. Thanks.
Cool. Yeah, so he found some interesting things about the color yellow and blue and the association with Wolverines and how that connects to the bigger picture. Let's see here. Salty says they showed up at Kyle's arraignment looking like straight pimps. Mama had on a floor length fur coat and Daddy wearing Gucci suit. Yeah, they were probably raking in the dough off Kyle along with Lynn Wood. They made millions off Kyle while he's in jail. They convinced his mom. They said, "Hey, Wendy Rittenhouse, it's going to be Armageddon after the election. He'll be safer in jail." Infinite Plane Radio.
Hey Tim, it's Pete Trippa from Boston. How you doing?
Hey, what's up? We're just looking at the McCloskeys. I mean, that would be a good Halloween costume. Like you and your girlfriend show up to a Halloween party. She's wearing the Hamburglar shirt. And
No, I don't have. No, that one doesn't exist. You have to start a IPS dating app first. That's the first step to
right.
find a girlfriend. So.
Well, but you see, this is clearly though out of like some sort of like this is like central casting, wouldn't you say?
I'm not looking at the screen, but yeah, those guys. I know you keep talking about these guys. They're. I don't know why. Well, are they in the news now, or are they?
Well, the only
you just kind of you're relating them to everything.
We're relating them to something else. Basically, we're talking about the Turner Diaries, which kind of is in the news, and it wasn't even a thing. Like, who's reading some garbage book from 1978 or something and making it relevant today? Nobody. But it's a prop, more or less.
Yeah. No. It's just a textbook example of how everything is. They're making everything rhyme, and everything kind of has to look alike, sound alike. Do things that are similar to things that have happened in the past. So I'm not surprised. It's good that we're identifying these little things. And I don't know why he was running for office. I do remember that, but I feel like it was just another part of the script. It wasn't like supposed to happen. It was just to appeal to the masses and what have you. So.
Yeah, absolutely. They're making heroes out of these people. And, honestly, this is not what responsible gun owners would do. Their lives weren't threatened. I mean, you could argue, but it's like the worst they could have done is maybe they would have stepped on their lawn, but they weren't even on the sidewalk. So I kind of think it was inappropriate to come out and point weapons at people. And
so this is a very good example. I just want to give you my perspective on a lot of these things. This is a very good example of how, at first, now I've said this before. At first, someone is not part of the script. And I think they become part of the script. It's as if this was very possible. I'm just throwing this out there because I get the clothes and how they match with the cover and all that stuff. It sounds great. I mean, it's almost too ridiculous to link the two things. But then I don't know. This is where it breaks down for me, Tim. This is like, remember the Boston bombing stuff? It's so.
Let me ask you this. Let me ask you this. Do you trust the news?
There's so many finer points. For instance,
do you trust trust the news?
No.
Do you believe that? What I mean is, do you think the news is essentially reporting the truth, but sometimes sneaky crisis actors lie to them, or do you think that they're producing wholesale lies?
So this is where, in your case, it's black and white. In my case, it's a little bit gray. And this is because I called about other things too that is in that gray area. And I think that, these people are co-opted, whatever. They're brought into this. They're brought on stage because they passed the test. They passed their either initiation phase or interview phase or whatever. And they're like, oh, those people are cool. They're waving guns. They kind of look like that book that we used to write back in the day. Because who knows what we're dealing with? We don't know what these people are like. We don't know what they are, the people behind the curtain and all that stuff. We don't know if they are overviewing this stuff. The stuff that I'm getting into with like people that are living like hundreds or almost like a thousand years. You know, we don't know if like the controllers about this is wacky, right? But like, how fringe can you get when you're on this channel?
Well,
So it's like, you
no,
know,
actually, no,
it's
wait, hold on.
possible
Before
that
you go any
there's
further,
people.
let me point this out. There's nothing supernatural, spectacular, or extraordinary about asserting the use and existence of crisis actors. This isn't fringe. This is the reality. Crisis actors, stage media events, wagging the dog is standard operating procedure. So we're not reaching outside of observation and facts. It is the media that is selling fantasy. We're not fantasy here. We're reality based. The media is fantasy based. And if you believe the media at face value, you're in the metaverse. And my contention is your perspective is therefore going to be a little, I would say, based in a kind of a delusion, a shared collective delusion that society shares in.
So, and I thought about this, right? So and clearly there's like stuff going on in Ukraine and so and what have. There's tons of fake stuff happening. That guy Les Luthor or whatever. I just have. This is what you just said breaks down for me when I start thinking about. You know, I always try to think of examples that might counteract you a little bit. I'm not saying that you're wrong. I'm not saying that I'm wrong. I'm not saying.
Well,
that
let me ask you
anyone's
this.
right
Let me ask you
or
this
wrong or
question. Do you
whatever.
believe in crisis actors, or is
But
that a
like,
conspiracy theory to you?
no, I believe that they definitely exist.
No. You know, do you
100%,
know they
1000%.
exist? Because that's what we have to just differentiate between what do you
Well, that's the thing
know
is
versus what do you
all right,
believe.
all right. I just figured out where we're not talking the same thing. Like, I'm having an issue identifying them. Doesn't necessarily mean, like, you could say, okay, that person is a crisis actor. I'd be like, oh, okay. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's an identification thing. I maybe it's just a little bit slower for me. And what I'm saying, where I'm going with this is what I was about to say was with the military stuff and all the war stuff is like they play up and propagandize, I think, certain military people who, for instance, because I know you're in the military, just hear me out for a second. That, you know, there's popular people that gave their lives, you know, for the country, and I actually, like, you know, there's some stamps that I collect, or like paintings, or like books that I read and stuff like that. You know, World War II is like an awesome. I mean, I used to love that stuff. Now, you know, but what I'm saying is there's real people that are coming back from where they're actually injured and stuff like that. So it's like, where do you draw the line? How do you identify? Do you know what I mean? Because some of those people that are coming back for real, obviously, I'm just saying, they're
Well, I
also
would say this.
used
Look, if you're speaking
on
in
the
broad
news too.
brushes,
And
you're not going
so
to get
what?
close to the truth. We got to be on a, you know, on a case to case. We can't say it's all fake. We
Well,
can't say it's
that's what
all
I'm
real. And
saying, Tim.
I've never said it's all fake. I've only said extraordinary
Right,
claims require extraordinary evidence, which is far different from saying everything's fake.
right,
And so what differentiates something from extraordinary versus non-extraordinary? Does it upset the status quo? And if it doesn't,
right,
well, then why would I even need to question it? But if something serves a political agenda, it seems fake, it fits predictive programming to a T
right.
in numerous ways. I don't have any trouble understanding that all we're looking at is the culture engine being used to soften up the minds to accept what the news is going to produce. So I don't even think it's an extraordinary claim for me to call news fake at this point.
Right, but another example, right, is actually this probably supports you. Maybe I'm just help me out here, because, like, you're obviously helping me and probably other people that are listening. So when Trump gave his like first or second presidential like address or something, the State of the Union, I think one of them, he had a guy from North Korea who like escaped, and he was holding like a crutch and stuff like that. Do you remember that? I don't know if you remember that. You probably didn't even watch. I'm not sure if you watched. I was kind of. I did like Trump.
Oh yeah, no. I went to Trump's
So I
rallies.
watched.
In fact, I went to a rally in Albuquerque where
Yeah.
there was a riot after somebody shot the door of the convention center, and they made us leave early out the back door. There were fights, and
Yeah.
there was a police horse broke its ankle. There was a T-shirt stand that was burned, and I recognized some of the locals participating in the rioting. So like, but it turned out
Yeah.
though that the rioters who came in dressed up like Bernie fans, Bernie Senator, is it Bernie? What was the guy's name? Sanders?
See, that's when I started thinking. Yeah, that's when I started thinking about the fake BLM stuff. That's when I started thinking about the anything fake riots, anything like that seems like a riot. No one wants to burn down. I mean, you might say you want to burn something down to the ground, but like, I don't think anyone really does. So, I mean, I feel like
I
even
would
those
actually disagree with that.
situations,
I would disagree with that. I would say that the
really,
political
yeah.
left's platform, their political party platform in action is Grand Theft
Well, yeah.
Auto. It's literally
Well,
that.
yeah.
And if you want to see
Hmm.
their projected future, watch DMZ, Demilitarized Zone on HBO. It's about a
Oh,
post-Civil War America where
I say so much. Oh,
you
I
have this new
can't.
utopia where you don't have the American government anymore, and they're almost glorifying this idea of shutting down the system. No more capitalism, no more free market. Now it's just basically Mad Max. But they glorify the downfall of the free market because, of course, this is going to kill the planet. But anyway, uh, to get back
Can you?
on topic, what we were getting
Yeah.
into methodologies here. How do you know whether something's real or fake? Well, I'm
Right.
not in the business.
Identification.
Yeah, I'm not in the business of telling people what to believe. I'm just pro offering a methodology. I'm just saying shift the burden of proof when necessary. It's that simple. And
Right.
if you do that,
Right.
the fake pretty much
Assume.
outs itself.
Yeah. Assume. Assume. Like you're assuming that whatever's presented before you is essentially something that's been drummed up. You
No,
know,
not
you're
at all.
like,
No, quite the opposite. I'm
no.
assuming only in extraordinary circumstances. So, for example, if they
Oh,
say
only.
only
Okay.
in
Okay.
extraordinary, only if it accepts the status quo. If the
Yeah.
news reporter says the sky's blue, why am I going to question that and investigate it? I'm not crazy. I'm not the one that's reality challenged. They're the ones who are imposing a false view of reality and they have created a reality challenged society. I'm grounded in reality.
Yeah.
I'm the least confused person that I know. And the reason why is that I'm not accepting false explanations and I'm totally cool with question marks. I'm totally cool not having all the
Well,
answers, especially when the answers that they literally sell you are lies in many ways. And I
right.
could point to a number of examples. Like, do you think it's still shocking to say that the moon landing is a really bad movie?
No, no, it's not shocking to say. Are you kidding me? That's the funny part is when you just change the speed in all the videos. It's absolutely wacky.
Wait. So if
Um,
they can fake a
Vibes
moon
of
landing,
Cosmos
if
is
they
the
can fake
best.
a moon landing, then why is it challenging that they could fake some people here on Earth um, pretending to do some kind of a race war uprising skit? You know what I'm saying? Like
Right.
as
'Cause
far as
so,
the scale
yeah.
of the psyop.
Well, I guess what I'm using as my identification markers are things such as like the Super Bowl. Those are like big, or like the big dates in your case. You know what I mean? And you just brought up like the moon landing. Like that's a big thing. Like they try to emphasize this thing. Oh, that's another thing because I bought a Boston Herald of was it July, the day after the moon landing. Oh my God, I gotta send you a screen capture of it. Um, it's filled with numbers, like literally like the time that they landed was exactly like one no, it took them 104 hours and 22 minutes or something. It's some weird it's like one of the numbers, right? It's like 103 minutes and 103 hours and 22 minutes. Anyways, I, but what I'm trying to say is that the identification thing is every big thing I'm noticing, you know, a moon landing, an assassination, or a war. Or a war. How did we not see the war starting on 2/2/4/2/2? That was wild. I wanted to call you
Well,
up
actually,
that
I
day
did. I
too.
said this. I said
Um,
on 222,
oh
The
man,
father of Amir Locke. You
did
know,
you?
okay.
Okay.
Remember this on the second of February,
Yeah.
the guy named Amir Locke was shot at 6:48, which is a mirror of 8:46, and he was also in the Twin Cities. Anyway, his father
Mhm.
said, "My 22-year-old died on the second, and I want 22 days of peace." And I thought, So you
Right.
count 22 days forward, and I'm like,
Mm.
watch the peace end on 224. So you could say we were
Oh,
right, but
this is
my point
this
is
is exactly
there's more to it when
okay.
you add in the
Yeah.
Pluto return on the 22nd and
Hmm.
this use of the mirror as the name a mirror. Like this stuff is so entirely
So
scripted, it's almost
I
predictable. It is predictable often.
I have to no. You brought something up. I have to share this with you right this very second because I honestly it comes up all the time and I always forget to say it to you. I think this is not. This is a form of communication. So what I'm trying to say is when they say things like that, oh, it's 22 days of peace. Like we're starting to decode this in a very practical way. And I think that's very useful for predicting the future to some degree. And I'm not saying we'll know exactly what will happen, and I'm not saying anything like space, wacko. I'm just saying, like, these are legitimate conversations that I think that the people higher up above us are actually having with each other. It to us, it may seem like a mocking kind of conversation because we're figuring it out. But really, they're actually telling us, they're saying, hey, let's do 22 days of peace. And Putin, like, you see what's going to happen at NASA. That's another, anything on the ISS, that's going to be another level of communication. Because remember, like, last year, like, you always talk about, like, getting the jab, like, and then the ISIS got shot by a moon pebble, right? So, or remember that little story? So, and then there's like other stories about Russians like drilling holes in the hull or something. All
Yeah,
those, like,
oh yeah.
fake.
Look. In the summer, they found cracks in the ISS, and at the same time, the cosmonauts were blaming America for the hole. So there was some kind of fighting up above, and then there's literal cracks, like an air leak. And I thought, this is just
Right.
preparing us for what?
So
The Russians leaving, and
this
that's
is
what they're
where.
talking about now.
Sorry, I didn't mean to speak over you.
No, you're right though. You're right though. That
Um,
predicted the breakup. Like, right now, Russia is planning to go to the Mars alone. That they're breaking up with us. That they're doing a solo Mars mission. This was predicted in all of the scripting that we were talking about this summer with regards to how the International Space Station would fall apart, literally and
what
figuratively.
what I'm trying to say to you, Tim, is I think because my mind is still fresh to this, it's almost like a little child,
Wait,
that I'm
fresh
able
to what
to
exactly? Hold on a second here.
decode.
Fresh to what exactly? The existence of the fact that the
Very true
propaganda, that
question.
like propaganda
Good question.
exists. Fresh to
No,
the
no,
idea that the
no,
meat.
it's just it's essentially that the realm that we are living in, just the awareness of knowing
Okay, I
the
gotcha.
or
I gotcha.
thinking I know
I
what the
gotcha.
realm is, that now I'm thinking on similar terms as, let's say, for instance, they or the men and women behind the curtain, or whatever is going on.
I got what you're saying.
We're starting to
I got what you're
decode
saying.
that, and that's why I see. I'm this is like a bigger layer, and what you're doing for me is deconstructing the media. Now here I am on the weekends looking up like how to build how architecture is made, building houses. Why is gold? Are the mountains trees? Do you know what I mean? All these little things. I'm just putting all, like, are pieces of the Bible true, or or all is it all fake, or is it all twisted the way the news is twisted right now? So it's like, don't answer that question, but just, these are practical questions. I think as IPS
They are. They are.
people,
That's a valid question there.
we have to,
Of
like,
what
continuously
of what use is the Bible?
hone.
Is it an argument from authority? Is it a historical record? What's its value? And one thing, you can't just get rid of this stuff. Whether or not you agree with its conclusions, the information, the intelligence, whatever you can gather from it is probably useful in and of itself. And with the Bible, you have a clear example of an astrotheological script. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, they're the four seasons. And you can go into detail and into depth, and you can show that the Bible is basically it's nothing but personifications of the seasons.
And I thought about that too, Tim. Who's going to say that? This is just like the gematria of baloney. Is who can say that way back in the day? Let's say 2,000. Let's say 6,000. Let's say maybe 100,000 years ago. Whoever, if all these cultures use, like, astrology or astronomy as like their method of counting down or tracking things, why? Who's to say that any of those names are arbitrary too? Those, like the names of Orion's belt or the Big Dipper or the bear, like, because they're the same in all cultures.
Yeah,
So
let me run
who's
this
to
one
say
by you.
that
You said
those
Orion.
weren't?
Okay, Orion to the Egyptians was Osiris.
Yeah,
So back in
right.
January, when
Yeah.
Chesley Christ jumped off the Orion building and splattered on 42nd Street at 7:13 a.m., she jumped off the Osiris building. That connects to the number 42, and it connects in many ways to 713, the timestamp, and the fact that she was a beauty queen, a queen, royalty adds more to it. But this is just an example. We're looking
Now,
at
Tim, can you imagine the show meeting 10, 20 years in advance, planning that out?
Yes,
Do you know what I mean? Like this, I'm just saying, and I get it.
I can.
It's
I
just
literally
like that
can.
old
Look,
'60s.
it's easy. It's easy because what they're doing is they are superimposing a script over reality. This is the augmentation I'm talking about. What is the difference?
Okay,
Like so, for example, before they do a school shooting, they know the numbers, the dates, the lines. They have all the details. And what I'm pointing out here, I can show you. Either I'm looking at the fingerprints of God and I'm showing you things that are so far beyond coincidence, it ought to be miraculous, or I'm looking at the hands of uh, man in secret places influencing things with psychological operations. And what's more likely?
right. And what I'm saying, Tim, is what if we have this power and we have this foreknowledge? What could we do about it? And I think practically, oh yeah, for fun, I could play around with the stock market or something like that, right? But even more practically, if they're playing the long game, I don't think there's really. I'm starting to think that there's really nothing at all that we should be worried about, even if it is something we should be worried about. In this case, in the IPS universe,
Yeah, look, I'm
does that
not
make
I'm
sense to
not
you?
pro offering the Bubba run for the hills, the Bubba effect they call it. Like most
Right.
conspiracy
No, 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 no,
theories,
no, no.
they're always like they are after us, run for the hills, be afraid. And I'm saying no. If they're telling you to be afraid, they're serving the enemy here. I happen to think this whole thing is Psywar, and it's based on keeping you in a state of fight or flight. And so it's like, yeah, Alex Jones peddling
Right.
what? Stuff you need for fight or flight. Here's your food. He's selling a knife now. So here's your combat knife. Here's your MREs. Get ready to run for the hills when the commies come. I'm like, okay, that's
Right.
permanent fight or flight. To me, that's the opposite. And that's why I like associating this channel with
There's
the calm, really dispassionate breakdown of the facts as presented.
Well, I like that because that's a good segue. There's a really good book called, oh gosh, it's by Vincent Norman Peale. I think it's called Outwitting the Devil. And my phrase for what you just said is from that book. It's called drifting. And I think whether it's the devil, metaphorically speaking, in this case, in this group of people, it's evil causes us, fear causes us to drift. I could be a millionaire. I could be a billionaire. I could be a trillionaire, whatever. I could be the person running the banks. Who knows? But what I'm saying is we're not. I mean, we could be, but we're not. And it's because over time we've been conditioned to think in this fear-based mentality. I think we're strong enough to be, just more powerful than we are. And that's where I think this group is like fantastic because we're identifying the breakdowns and I'm using it for my things, and I hope everyone else is using it for their things in life, to make their lives better. Because I'm laughing at the whole jibby jib and the whole everything. The war that's happening. I'm just like, guys, come on. Oh, I feel so bad for what's happening. I can't believe it. I was in an Uber the other day. I just feel so bad for what's happening. I'm like, oh man, I don't know what I should tell them. Like, should I show them like Les Luthor's like whole Twitter? Feed, there's just things like that, Tim. It's like every day you get a combat within yourself. It's almost like I've become more positive
Well, you
and
know what? Look,
calm.
here's something you can do. Because when the COVID lockdown started, I was like, wait, this isn't fair. The media is essential and they get to
Hmm.
go wander around. So I started issuing out press passes. So now you're unlockdownable. So there you
Got
go.
it,
You're
buddy.
free. So now you're
I got
free.
it, bro.
You're free. So that's
Hmm.
the best you can do. And
Hmm.
now they're about to enforce
Hmm.
climate change lockdowns. And so I'm saying,
Oh,
well, your
shut.
media, you got to go out there and check on the climate change. So you're never going to be locked down. You're never going to be affected by it. So what else could you possibly want?
Oh, there's so many layers to the climate change thing.
Are you?
Um,
Look, whether or not you believe in it or if it's
no,
natural,
no, no, no.
the
Oh
thing
no, I
is,
was gonna
it is
say like
literally a replacement myth, a flood myth for an angry God, because
no,
that's
but
a very
right.
basic
I
fear.
Noah. Yep. I know the spiel, and what I'm trying, I'm saying like practically, I know that there also is like money involved with people who study climate change, and that they're paid to make numbers look different. You know what I mean? So there's a bunch of onion layers to that whole spiel, and you know what? What's the step after that? Is it just to keep us in our houses? Do you know what I
No,
mean?
that's a good question, and it is true. Like
Like
the
wearing helmets on our head?
climate scientists, they have Munchausen syndrome by proxy. Like they're making us think the globe is sick when it's not, so that they can have power over us and get our money through, basically guilt tripping. And what is the end goal? I think the end goal is status
Yeah.
quo. In my opinion, the end of the world
Right.
happened in 2020. So we're just a couple years into the new age. But I think that their agenda is status quo. They don't like upsetting that in terms of there being an entrenched elite, a small group at the top of the pyramid relative to the masses at the base. And anytime there's a great opportunity for mass upward mobility, they have to do a reset. They have to burn stuff down. And I think that's what this was about. When I saw the lockdowns, I'm like, okay, this is sort of a soft communist revolution. Jeff Bezos made $33 billion the first quarter of the
Right.
COVID pandemic. 33 billion. Meanwhile, everyone else is going home. So it's pretty obvious to me that, yeah, I think it's a cyclical thing, and once in a while they got to make sure that no
Yeah,
one
that
gets too
stuff is
close.
it's almost like fake pushing of money towards certain people, but they're probably wrapped in a bunch of trusts and LLCs that they don't even own those companies. They're just the actors that are getting paid, to be the leaders of those trusts or something like that. I don't know. I still haven't figured that part out yet, because if they're actors, like, here's what I don't get about, for instance, like Trump. If he's an actor, if he's like one of the higher ups or whatever, and I'm just assuming that he is, just because we're here in this room together. Why did they give him like a crappy body? Do you know what I mean? Like, why is he out of shape all the time? Why can't he just be like Arnold Schwarzenegger, for instance? Do you know what I mean? And I get, like, different actors have to do different things, but, like, you know,
Yeah, I see what you're
I
saying.
don't
Like,
know.
like
What,
if we're gonna believe that there's an
what
elite,
it,
ought
it,
they look like gods? And shouldn't they be like show me the adrenochrome is working, Hillary Clinton?
oh, this is a great, yes, this is a great point, because if we're going to treat them like gods, for instance, Bezos got jacked up, but however, Elon Musk isn't really, what I mean by jacked up means, like, it's almost like between 1999 and 2020, Jeff Bezos has become like a bodybuilder compared, not really, but you know what I mean.
Oh, I
But
saw
Elon
him
Musk,
on his
he,
$500 million mega yacht.
yeah,
Billionaires are
he was
not,
a little fatty.
those guys are not
Yeah,
sustainable. But yeah, that's more respectable than
yeah,
Bill
yeah.
Gates. Who would you rather
Well,
be?
that's what I'm saying.
I mean, Bill Gates is what's with the sweaters? Only serial killers
So you
wear
get you
sweaters like
so
that.
you get what yes, you get what I'm saying. So, like, they don't embody the only thing, that gives them that god like mentality, that god feeling, I guess, I don't know, is that they have a ton of money. That's it, because they don't, like, Bill Gates. I'm sorry, not a lot of women aren't going to go after the Bill Gates, but, like, they might go after, like, Jeff Bezos kind of look. I mean, with respect to the billionaires that we're talking about here, you know what I mean?
You know what?
So
Speaking of
it's a very
billionaires,
unusual.
the Triple Comma Club, as it's called by one of the
Trace Comas.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
the Triple Comma Club. I think that was Mark Cuban started that. That's his thing. Triple Six. Um,
uh,
I used to be in publish. I'm still doing publishing here and there, but when I was learning how to do publishing on Kindle, most of the people I learned from were into romance, and it seems like one of the huge genres on Kindle is this fetish for billionaires. Specifically, billionaire shapeshifters, billionaire vampires, billionaire. It doesn't even matter. As long as it's
huh.
billionaire, it sells. It's the weirdest thing. Like that
That's
50 Shades
it's
of
Grey's
Grey.
Anatomy.
What's
It's
that?
Grey's Anatomy. Come on. The chicks dig Grey's Anatomy. You know it. And obviously, an author who's just a co-author or whatever, they're gonna monopolize on that. Obviously, there's a market for it. This is all marketing. Everything is marketing. Even the propaganda that we're fed in the news, it's all marketing.
Well, look, Bill Gates, though, on record, he actually has naked swimming pool parties at his house. So, he isn't undesirable. Maybe not to you or me, but a lot of people.
Well, hey, I can't. There was a few other things but I already forgot them. I'm doing a lot of hard work on this end of things, and I'm feeling a little alone here. But it's really good to have the Discord and, like, a lot of the other people that kind of keep the record straight.
Yeah, let
And
me run this by you really
really do
quick here.
appreciate you.
I am
Yeah,
republishing an updated version of the Auto Hoaxer
good.
handbook. And the reason why is that this is a book that has just a methodology for sifting through bullshit, in my view, in a way that's necessary, given how hyper mediated we are. And I think that is more or less what I use as sort of like my litmus test for determining what's real or fake It's does it pass this test and this test? Basic reality testing. But I'm republishing the book so that I can really clarify where I'm
Definitely.
coming from.
Yeah, you had a killer post the other day about the I don't know. I may have missed the actual because I missed a couple shows the last few days, but you mentioned a really it was how to. When was the last time you? How did you ask it to open up your post? It was like, when was the last time you
Oh yeah,
didn't
yeah.
think
When was the
the
last
news
time
was fake? And I was like, oh, this is a great post.
Yeah, when was the last time
That
you fell for
yeah.
a news story that you later found out to be fake? And I'm looking back, and the last time I didn't question. I don't know. I mean, even Vegas. Vegas was in 2018. I sort of thought some people might have died, but after that, I fine-tuned
Right.
my the way I analyze these things.
Yeah, but you must have thought of other things before then. No?
Actually, I was
Like for instance like
okay.
9/11.
Oh yeah, no, I believed it. In fact, I believed the main
Wow.
story and worse because I figured, okay, not only is this real, but it was probably
Yeah.
some kind of horrific satanic sacrifice. And even when Sandy Hook happened, yeah, I assumed it was real. And I just took Alex Jones's explanation that it was a black op Democrat operation to take our guns, so they killed a bunch of kids. And so I
Right.
had the dark view that our politics are so dirty that they'll murder a classroom full of kids to make a point. And that seemed more plausible to me at the time than the official story. Then I dug in and I found out what's really going on.
Yeah. You know what? I think it was 3 or 4 years ago I bought that book that I thought was the last level, the last onion layer of it was the DEW. That like the Twin Towers weren't actually hit by planes, but it was like blown up by an energy weapon, and I was like, I was at that layer like in about 2015, almost 15 years after it. So it's like it's gradual, right? It takes time. Who knows, what's going to happen next year, but
And yeah,
oh
good
man.
point. Good point. Like
Oh man.
if I assumed I had all the available information and I stuck with the conclusions that I had just a couple years ago, I would be way off. So I'm comfortable knowing that I don't have the answers and I just have to make the distinction between what I know and what I believe. And then, of course, with that
Right.
comes what are my sources. But anyway, appreciate the call. A couple
Yeah.
of people are asking who this
Yeah,
is.
definitely, Tim.
Pete
Thank
Trippa.
you.
Pete Trippa.
Yeah, that's me in
All right.
Boston.
All right.
Come up here.
We'll keep an
All
eye out
right.
for you.
Take
Hey,
care.
I may actually at some point head out the direction, so we'll be in touch. Have a great night.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, one of the goals here is Infinite Plane Media and all of our reporters. We are getting more, not mainstream friendly, but we are merging with the mainstream. We are an actual media organization. We have reporters all over the place. We really moved them out in 2020 onto the streets. We had them at every riot, every major psyop, it seemed, somebody close by. We still do. Thanks, Jose Martinez from the Sagittarius Arms Society. The IPS appreciates the support. Jose Martinez called in before. I believe he's slightly Mandela effect friendly, which is cool. And he bought a painting from me, a Joker painting, I believe. All right, let me go ahead and play some voicemails. This is.
Hi, Tim. I was just calling to leave a message because I know you're not up this early. But I was listening to the replay tonight, and I noticed that you had told the young lady that was on the phone this was an oasis of sane people. So what I wanted to say is that I am a subscriber. And
Yes, the oasis of sane people.
And I called. I actually was in the chat one night, and
It's a very, very long message here. I'm scrolling through the transcript. It's a couple minutes long, so maybe I'll be able to get her to call in and really go into detail. But let me go ahead and play about 30 more seconds here.
with all the sites you're at, so I would appreciate it. Thank you, Tim. And I tell everybody that you're my boyfriend. There's a sign up for you.
Okay. And by the way, and I'll send her a text. You can sign up to text message notifications. It's the best way. That's the Penguin signal. And yes, I'll go through that voicemail. And let's see, a couple more here. And also, phones are still open, 833-311-1984. Lean Dion says, super spreaders of reality. Yeah, I would say so. Coyote Smoke and Mirror says, I believe nothing. Either know it empirically true or empirically false, or I simply don't know. Right. There is that area where, yeah, you guys, that's a great caller. Yeah, hopefully we can get her to call in and we'll discuss these things. And I am going to get the 24/7 stream back on very soon. In fact, I might just get that on tonight now. Since I got everyone here, I can just go ahead and leave it on just so you know. After this stream ends, what I'll probably do is I'll leave it on one of the YouTube channels. But my point is, if we have the 24/7 stream on, it makes it very easy for people to stay in touch, and we have commercials that we're working on. All right, let's continue. We were talking about climate change lockdowns. Now, I don't know how much interest anyone here has in this topic, but apparently we have a picture of JFK Jr. on top of Mount Rushmore, and then we have his voice. And here we have an expert. This guy claims he was in Air Force One with JFK Jr. and Trump. Let me just play this because this is where they're at, the Kool-Aid drinkers. And if you're still drinking the Kool-Aid,
there's only 200 naval pilots.
You're running out of time for your story to remain plausible. You're going to save the children. Save the children. Well, they're disaffected teenagers now. In fact, I just saw this article about how the Save the Children issue has been co-opted by QAnoners at the expense of actual victims of abuse. Infinite Plane Radio. Hey, what's up, caller? Sounds like there's a bit of a. If you want to turn your volume down on your speaker a little bit.
Okay, it's off.
Okay, cool. What's up? Okay, I can hear you loud and clear. So we were just talking about. Let's see here. Oh yeah, it's the spring equinox, by the way. First day of spring for everyone here, which might mean something. Hey, caller, can you hear me?
Yeah, it could mean that.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah, it's happy first day of spring. Happy spring equinox.
Yeah, and I'm thinking this. So the autumn equinox is when Persephone/Virgo goes into Hades. And now that we're at the spring equinox, I'm thinking here, maybe this is when the Kraken gets released. Hades is, of course, the creator of the Kraken. So anyway, I don't have my hopes up, but I was expecting maybe today is when things really start to go down. What is your take?
And that's right. And of course, remember that the Kraken was created, like you said, by Pluto, who just came back into our sphere again for the first time since 1776.
Yeah,
Kraken comes from Hades.
Since 1776. And I don't think, I really don't believe these are coincidences. There are so many of them that it's like, I don't know. The 22nd was the Pluto return. Pluto is Hades, and then this Kraken talk. And then just the other day, Hunter Biden's laptop and his crack smoking pictures is now front page again. It's like they keep on throwing it out there. Oh, again, yeah.
Oh, really? I know I loved your Kraken theory, and you totally called the Kraken the space shuttle, the International Space Shuttle, and then you totally called the separation of Russia months in advance. So kudos to Infinite Plane and Tim Osman. That was well done.
Yeah, thanks. And to everybody in the chat, because we have so many eyes on this story as it unfolds. And it is pretty much, I think, true that predictive programming is something of a predictive model. And we've been pretty spot on, especially as of late, even so much as the 40 CubeSats falling. And then look, even now, Russia.
Oh, that was.
Yeah, they're the one. Well, not Russia. I mean, Musk dropping his CubeSats, and we were saying we're going to see CubeSats falling, and I think he said 40 fell, 40 CubeSats.
Yeah, you said that's right. You called the things falling from the sky. You called that a year ago. 1 year ago, you called the next thing would be the next threat was coming from things falling from the sky. So I thought that was pretty spot. By the way, this is Quaidel Smoking Mirror. I wanted to I wanted to ask you, can we touch on, may I just touch on the news coverage of the Russian pseudo war in Ukraine?
Yeah, please do. Please do. What's your take
Yeah,
on
yeah,
this?
because I don't want to. I'm not sure what topics you want to touch, but yeah. In other words, let's not talk about whatever. I have no idea what's happening in Ukraine at this point, right? But what I did do was day 1 through 4, I follow the news stories on major news outlets. Okay, I go to Twitter, I go to CNN Twitter, Fox Twitter, the Sun newspaper Twitter, New York Times on Twitter, right? And I was told on day 3 that there was a battle in the streets. There was a battle for Ukraine. It was happening in the streets, right?
Right.
And then myself, before everyone even jumped on it, I could prove that those stories were fake, right? That there was no fighting in Ukraine. There was no ghost pilot flying around shooting down 30 Russian jets, which is, you being in the military, you would know that would be just impossible, right? I don't think one jet. I think what was it? 6 jets in one day he shot down, the ghost of Kiev.
Yeah, and the media let that story fly unchallenged, kind of like they let the story of Jussie Smollett's lynching fly unchallenged. And you're pointing out things that are observably released as true, and then you find that they're totally made up.
Right. I mean, one human body couldn't withstand that much G-force in one day in a jet doing dogfights and successfully shooting down 6 planes in one day. It's just beyond preposterous. So we knew from day 1 to 4 that there weren't soldiers in the streets shooting it out. Like World War II, and that's what they were trying. That was clearly portrayed and clearly. And remember the woman who I told you that, which you've also had covered as well, which is the woman from the 2018 gas explosion in Ukraine, who quickly became the face of the Ukraine invasion, the Ukraine war, and it turns out she's an actress. In fact, don't forget the story the gas explosion in Ukraine did happen in 2018, and she did appear to be a victim then. And then they reused that same photo again to say she's a victim again in the same place and the same video.
Oh, and the
remember,
photo.
Her daughter was
the photo had her head wrapped up in cheesecloth, and she was still bloody. And I'm like, what kind of first responder is going to wrap your head in cheesecloth and then leave the blood dripping down your face in a very dramatic way for the cameras? So it screamed crisis actress to me. Then we find out her daughter is not only a scriptwriter but a model, and she sends her headshot to the news media. So you see this model's face, and she's like, "Stop calling my mom a crisis actor."
Yeah, like you said, like she's looking for a job. She puts her headshot on. So the thing I wanted to touch on tonight, and why I wanted to call, was because now what I'm seeing, interestingly enough, is, and I'm not commenting on these at all, but is that we'll call them pro-Putin sources putting out videos of Ukraine faking stuff, okay? Faking injuries, for example. But I realize that the things that they're showing now are actually things like scenes from an old Ukraine war movie, or so in other words, what's happening is like a double fake. So we're being shown fake footage of injuries in Ukraine, okay? But then I prove that the fake is actually a fake. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. This is unbelievable, but I mean, it's like the TikTokification of reality, where if they can just throw out short clips everywhere, people will just assemble this picture, and they don't even care or know or discern whether each piece is part of the same script, or if it's part of the other one, if it's real or fake, or fake or fake. I mean, it's crazy what they've done.
That's right. So that's right. That's why the point I wanted to make was that what they do, I've noticed this as well back in the COVID scenario. They'll put out, it's like, remember the Wuhan videos, the people flipping over and dying, right? In Wuhan, right? Just obviously fake videos, right?
Kung Flu, yeah, loved it.
The Kung Flu, right? That was funny. So what now happens now is that we were given a lot of videos that we could personally prove fake, right? Like I could find that 2018 news coverage in Ukraine of the gas explosion where that same actress is being used twice, right? And right. So, but what they do now is in the later stages, they start to release fake. So then we're cocky and we show you. They want us to show our friends, hey, look at this. The Ukrainians are faking this the people, these aren't really body bags. They're filled with actors. And then we find out that now that's actually from an old Ukraine movie, okay? And it was
Oh,
actually disseminated by
good
the
call.
pro-Putin people.
They did that in
You see them?
2020.
Yeah,
There were a few people who would put these videos out and it'd go viral. And you'd see a body in a body bag smoking a cigarette, and they'd show it to their friends and they'd say, "See, the whole thing's a hoax." Then you'd find out from Snopes that that was from a Russian music video, and it was mistaken to be a crisis actor. So yeah, they're trying to discredit.
exactly.
They want to discredit people calling out the fake news by throwing out fake news that they can debunk. I mean,
Exactly.
it's
That's
such a
exactly
game.
right. So in the beginning, initially, they're going to give us very big, broad stories like the Ghost of Ukraine, the battles in the streets of Kiev, which, of course, my friend Les Luther on Twitter, you've been following now, has been showing you that, nothing's really, people are leaving because it sucks. I mean, obviously it's going to be as bad as COVID, if not worse, right? I mean, the average Joe is going to suffer badly. It's not, the collateral damage of COVID was real, and the collateral damage of the pseudo war in Ukraine is going to be real, but to the common man on the street, right? They're going to be seriously uprooted. Their jobs, their families, their lives, their economy is going to be seriously disrupted. So the collateral damage is real, and I don't want to discount that because these people, the Russians being persecuted by the Nazi Ukraine government is real. The Western Ukrainians who are being told to leave is real, right? They are getting on trains, and some are staying, some aren't. It's a disruption without a doubt. I mean, we'd agree on that, right?
Yeah, we'd agree it's a psy war, and it's primarily a psy war,
Yeah, yeah.
and it's still a war. Emotional abuse is still abuse. It may not leave physical scars, but yeah, there is a lot happening. And beyond that, even the people who aren't being physically moved around, who believe it's real, are having the internal experience of it being real. And they get these celebrities out like Arnold Schwarzenegger, Mr. Screw Your Freedoms, is out there saying, basically begging for 10 minutes straight, stop the war. So this is a celebrity driven psyop, and they're all, part of the mind war as well.
Yeah, so we can still be auto hoaxers, but we got to make sure that when we auto hoax, we got to make sure that we're not being auto hoaxed. So we have to be double auto hoaxers and make sure that the hoax that we know that the story is not true either way, no matter who's disseminating it. So we have to be on double guard. The deeper the psyop goes, it becomes harder and harder to discern the real from the fake.
And here's another point too, is I'll constantly refer to the 17 consecutive years of fake school shootings, but there are victims. The victims are the ones who believe it's necessary to lock down under their desk and freeze and wait for the police to save them from the MAGA with the bowl cut and the AR-15. Like, so you actually do have traumatized victims who do believe in this, and it shapes their worldview. So there are
Oh,
victims and
absolutely, yeah,
casualties in the
yeah,
mind war, and so yeah,
yeah.
I use mockery and ridicule mostly as a weapon against the thing, more than as a way of just being irreverent about life or something. Because I'm not. I actually think life is precious, and what they do to minds through trauma-induced mind control is very inhumane when you get down to it.
Your listener and our buddy here, Truth Hurts 21, is asking who is Les Luthor. By the way, Truth Hurts 21, it's Les Luthor, like Thor, and you can find him at Les Luthor on Twitter to keep up with the, up to I think Infinite Plane. Tim has been also reposting and retweeting some
Yes.
of his tweets as well.
A good way
But at Les Luthor, so I don't.
Yeah, a good way to describe Les Luthor is he's doing for this Ukraine charade thing, whatever it is, what the empty hospital investigators did in 2020. He's just walking around and he's reality testing the claims of the media. And Les Luthor has exposed, or revealed rather, that it's,
On the ground,
yeah,
on the ground, right?
on the ground.
Present in Kiev. Took a plane via Poland from UK and got there with this camera and is filming there firsthand. Yes.
And this was been circulating. There's an individual from the Ukrainian military who was actually spotted at the January 6th PSYOP with Jake and Jelly.
Oh, sorry. Run that by me one more time. Who
Okay,
was
so
spotted?
there's an individual. His name is Sergey Dybrynyn. I couldn't pronounce that last name, but he's someone who was in the Ukrainian military, and there's many pictures of this individual, and I think it's a pretty solid match. He looks exactly like someone who was at the 1/6 event, and he's actually photoed with Jake and Jelly. And again,
Really?
yeah, his name is Dibyanin or something like that. And basically, yeah, we have multiple pictures of him. We have him actually having been arrested on January. Yeah, he was actually arrested for his work for
Oh, I
his.
see him. He's up on the screen now, right? I see him
Yep.
on your screen now on your Twitter.
Yeah,
I can, in fact, I can go to
and
I can go to the real Tim Osman on Twitter and see that as well. Yeah.
exactly, and you'll see that he actually poses with Jake and Jelly. So that's kind of funny. It's like, wow, what are the odds?
The
Ukrainian
odds
military.
are beyond. If it's a coincidence, it's beyond probable. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And to me, this is just par for the course. I don't even find it shocking. I'm like, oh wow, another TV star. I mean, look, you got Servant of the People, the president out there in a Netflix movie to prepare people for his world stage role.
Yeah. Yeah. By the way, who was the what was the show? The last live show you did? Do you remember that drunk girl who called up on Friday night?
Oh yeah, Restless
She
Bear.
said
She I don't know how if she was drunk. She was drinking, but yeah, Restless Bear.
Yeah, when I first heard her, I was like, "Oh my God, drunk girl." Maybe I'll just because I was listening to the replay. I thought I'm just gonna fast forward through this girl, and I started about to fast forward, and I thought, "No, I should just listen to her. Tim will spin it well, and he'll have a nice conversation." And she ended up being smarter than I remember saying to my wife, "This drunk girl is smarter than 99% of the people I deal with every day." Yeah,
Oh yeah,
I mean
definitely. Yeah,
that's your so
she's
Tim,
in our
Tim
Discord.
Osman's Infinite Plane.
Yeah, she's in our Discord server,
Yes, it's in Discord. Yeah.
we attract a lot of very interesting and sharp and observant people, and she had a lot to add to this to the conversation.
That's right, Tim. Your viewers drunk are smarter than the average the average person sober. So congratulations on that, cultivating a great audience. Thank you for a great show tonight, and keep up the great work. And I'm always there. I'll buy you a coffee tomorrow. Okay.
Hey, I appreciate it. Thank you again, and thanks for the call. Have a great night. And I'll put a link in the
My
video
ple-
description to yours and Les Luther's Twitter handles.
A pleasure, mate. Thanks so much, but keep up the good work.
All right.
Godspeed.
Thanks. All right, everyone. There we go. Coyote Smoke and Mirror. And yeah, I will be posting in the video description the Twitter to Les Luther. You have to check this guy's channel out. And yeah, that caller the other night, yeah, it was Friday night, so everyone is probably relaxing or whatever. And we covered a whole lot of topics. And one of the topics she brought up was, do you date normies? As in, should you be in relationships or enter into relationships with people who live in fantasy land, as in they believe what they see on TV. And yeah, I don't believe in alienating people. I mean, it is the majority. All right, let me see here. Bullet 01536 says best drunk dialers ever. The missing says best callers in IPS. Yes, we do have great callers, and we're going to continue to cultivate great callers. I'm also maintaining a consistent live stream schedule at the same time each night if I can. I'm going to try to keep this up. All right, someone says watch the movie Branded 2012. Okay. All right, so let's continue here. I've been doing these mashups. You know how we talk about the meta script, and I do these mind maps. Well, I've been doing these artistic mind maps where I'm putting a lot of the images together into a single image that maybe could be printed out. So here's one where I have Kanye West with his black gloves, and I superimposed over his eyes the eyes of Marilyn Manson and Charles Manson. Well, in this picture, he actually has contact lenses like Marilyn Manson. So he's got these Marilyn Manson eyes. And then the black gloves looks like OJ, the OJ gloves. And this whole talk about him going OJ is interesting because the imagery of Pete Davidson out there, one has his head through a ring of Saturn, and another popular one is a still from a movie he's working on where he's covered in blood, a movie called The House where he dies. So it all fits together in an interesting way. And then I wanted to point this out. His father died on 9/11 at the age of 33. On the first Dawn Day event, which was the anniversary of the 33 Burning Man festivals at Black Rock City, Kanye West had himself burned like a Burning Man. He did this fiery Phoenix stunt. And finally, at the second Donda event, and this is all put into this image, the trailer for Evan Wood's Phoenix Rising, which she produced when she was 33, was released. So what you see here in this picture is just a lot of overlapping symbolism, and I think when you take it all together, you can kind of see there's sort of a gestalt here. And I think what we're seeing is the burning of Kanye West's world as he goes Charlie Manson or OJ on this present situation. And you have the human sacrifice to be Pete Davidson. That's my interpretation. Whether it's a literal or some kind of a figurative remains to be seen. However, in the video where he says Illuminati mad, the Easy video, yeah, he buries Pete Davidson up to his neck, plants roses, picks up those roses around dead Pete Davidson's head, and puts them in the back of a truck. In real life, on Valentine's Day, he has a black truck full of red roses in the bed of the truck, delivered to Kim Kardashian. So, what I'm saying here is that there is more than enough in terms of the story and the narrative that's been placed out there for anybody to arrive at this exact same conclusion. I'm just pointing out the obvious. All right, let me go through some comments here. M.E. Sagittarius Arms Society says he's smoking the Fruit Loops with his new pipe. All right, and yeah, okay. Phase Polarizer says Kanye needs to up the lithium doses. Now, on that point, assuming this is all story, which is kind of where I'm at with it, one of the subtexts here is that Kanye West has some kind of emotional problems, mental problems, and so does Pete Davidson. So this is being brought to the forefront. In fact, Kanye's been banned from attending the Grammys because of his online behavior. But one of the headlines that's popping up right now with regards to Kanye is his mental health. And again, not only that, but behavior online. Kanye West pulled from Grammy Awards because of behavior online. I'm seeing more of the mental health angle being brought up, which is very significant in all of this. Again, experts warn that abuse could be more than physical after Kanye West Instagram ban. So they're making an example out of him. There's some kind of example being set. And again, I'm thinking here that we're looking at some kind of setup for some OJ level event. It looks too obvious to be that simple that they would just go that route, but I don't know. Kanye West world burning, that's what it looks like. Dash 3342 says, not available to stream almost anywhere in the world, branded. Sorry for repeating. Love your image. I dislike Pete since he started dating Ariana Grande. Ariana has a song 7 Rings for the 7 Saturn rings. She's also a NASA shill. Kind of the same thing, and that's not hyperbole. I mean, look up the connections between NASA, Nazi, then Elon Musk's daddy, Werner von Braun, a Nazi, who was friends with Walt Disney, who some believe might actually be Adolf Hitler in disguise, but whatever. Nazi, NASA, Disney. Distinctions without differences. All right, let me go through some headlines here. Again, Science News Roundup. Russia's to work on a solo Mars mission after Europe freezes joint project. So what does this mean? Russia's going to go alone? Are we going to fight over Mars? And I wanted to point out again, this Mars thing, this new age, whatever that you call it, the Great Reset, the age of Aquarius, the New Age movement. It's all about this age of, well, Mars. The occultists call it the age of Horus. And that's what the number 93 symbolizes in their cult. And that's why I find it interesting that Pete Davidson has the number 93 tattooed in the center of his chest next to his Mars attacks tattoo. Because again, Mars is Horus, the age of Horus, the age of Mars. My point being, the space program is introducing humanity to this new, better, sustainable way of life that we'll achieve up there in the heavens. But we need to make Earth as it is in the heavens. We need to make our earthly existence here sustainable. So what we're actually being offered is a utopian vision. So on Mars, this is how we're going to live. It's going to be perfect, etc. And I'm saying that that is actually the transformation that they want us to go through. They want us to go into the sustainable green world order. That's what this great reset is about. So Mars isn't somewhere we're going. It's something they're doing to us here on Earth. The Martian ideal will be realized here. And this is not a new endeavor. This is just the uh, old secret societies bringing in a new age. But they're just dressing it up like science fiction, so you don't know it's a bunch of Satanists and wizards and warlocks running this place. No, you think it's scientists. Dash 3342 says, I'm convinced Hollywood is a branch of the military. Yeah, I would say so. I've said before, I think that the mass media is pretty much a military operation, that it's how they keep the masses under control. Mass media, mass mediation, mediate our behaviors so I don't know what they think we would do without them. What would we do without government? We would be lawless. What would we do without religion? We would be wicked. That's what we're taught, that were it not for this or that structure, we would all just be at each other's throats. And I kind of think that's a slander. I think that they have used movies to convince us that were it not for government, like, oh, if there's a government shutdown, it's all going down. We're all good. No, that's like the best thing that could probably happen right now. Imagine if the government ran out of money before 3/11/2020. If they just, oh, our propaganda budget is out. Sorry, Fauci, we can't pay you. Nothing would have happened. Okay, let me continue here. ME Sagittarius Arms Society says, I'm making videos against Stavely. He hates me. Brian Stavely, the Mandela Effect guru, is something of a fanatic. And I'm still waiting for them to start doing the forbidden Mandela Effect. The one started by Nelson Mandela's wife, Winnie Mandela. If you don't know about it, it's called necklacing. It's the one Mandela Effect they don't want to talk about. All right, let me see. Salty Siren says, all media is reality gatekeeping. Isn't media like a goddess? I believe it's a goddess of illusions or something like that. Media is known in most stories as a sorceress and is depicted as a priestess of the goddess Hecate. It looks to me like this is the one. And I believe it's a goddess of illusion. I'll have to look. Yes, the goddess of illusion. Another trickster deity associated with deception. There's a lot of these trickster deities too. It's like a real common thing. All right, anyway, another god or goddess is Gaia. So you got Gaia, which is sort of a way of worshiping the earth, but the World Economic Forum has this new initiative, which they call the Global AI Alliance. So what is the Global AI Alliance? It's Gaia. This is about implementing some kind of artificial intelligence replacement for human governance, some way to perfect everything. And it's coming from Darth Schwab over at the WEF 666, so you know you can trust it. But what are the odds that the AI brain that's going to take over and make everything in the world better happens to be called Gaia? Not a coincidence, especially when you look at the digital monolith at NATO. And it pretty much points us in the same direction. We're looking at this new argument from authority, a higher power. And also note AI 19, very interesting that to see that here for the post reset, because here you have, let's just start with Pearl Harbor. It was originally called Operation AI. AI is 19. 9/11 was a Pearl Harbor event. 9/11, 19 hijackers. 19 years later, COVID-19. COVID-19 followed by the Great Reset, and now you have this, the Global AI Alliance, or Gaia. So it's pretty obvious to me that 19 has something to do with these cyclical changes, phases, as this agenda advances forward. And there are so many things that we can point to. Even before COVID, you had C-19, which was a comet breaking up above the Earth. And this has an interesting tie-in to the movie Don't Look Up. So before COVID, you had C-19. And C-19 was a comet that was breaking up, and in the sky, it was green. Well, in Don't Look Up, you have a comet, kind of green, breaks up, and Just like we had a lockdown following the comet C19 because of COVID-19, and Don't Look Up, they don't have a lockdown, but the world pretty much shuts down because it's going to end in 6 months. Again, C19 preceded COVID-19, and these are all just codes if you ask me. Also noteworthy here, the comet was called Atlas, and it was breaking apart, which it had me thinking about, like Atlas Shrugged, as in the book Atlas Shrugged, it's about what happens if Atlas were to just drop the burden he's made to carry. And the book Atlas Shrugged is about a reset. It's about a group of, I guess, elite that decide to go to a place called Atlantis and leave everybody else in the dark until they can starve off the socialist government and bring back free energy. But they literally shut everything down and it all goes dark. Spoiler alert, if you haven't made it to page 12,000 or whatever of Atlas Shrugged, yeah, that's when the lights go off permanently until the Atlanteans decide to come back and turn them back on. Thanks, Phase Polarizer. Appreciate the support. And everyone else for keeping this thing going. We're trying to ramp this thing up. And it's just going to get better as time goes along, if you ask me. I think things are getting more interesting. The script gets more intricate, but we're also getting better at discerning when we're looking at psychological operations versus real events. And we're really rapidly accruing all available information about these stories. So it's like, I think that as a media organization, we do have a future in this. Unless the news media decides to start actually reporting factually, which I don't think they're going to actually be fact-based reporting agencies out there. Everything is super biased. There's even this coffee someone showed me. I think it's called Black Rifle. It's like right-wing coffee to combat Starbucks, left-wing coffee. Dash says, I finally caught you live. I wanted to say that you should look into behavior patterns. This is how they choose which characters will be played by specific actors. They choose ones with the same pattern in the MBTI system. Kabbalah was a behavior pattern also. Okay, I'm not familiar with MBTI, but I do look at typecasting, and that's a consistent thing. And I even I call it Hollywood typecasting or archetype casting, because they'll take characters and have them play in similar archetypal roles, movie to movie. And unless you compare them and look at them all side by side, you wouldn't see the connection. And Dash mentions transference, archetypal transference, where you redirect somebody's feelings from one person to another. And that's one of my explanations for why they would be involved in deep fakery in the first place. So, for example, you would have, let's take, for example, let's go with, and it doesn't have to be the same person. Like you could be pre-sold on a politician if they give them to you or present them to you in a similar way in a TV character that person embodies later. So one example of archetypal transference could even be Biff Tannen from Back to the Future. So Biff Tannen is known to have been based on Donald Trump. The writer of the show said that they based him off Trump. Yep. Back to the Future writer reveals Biff Tannen was inspired by Donald Trump. So here you have a character based on somebody real. Now, this isn't a selling point for Donald Trump, but I think this goes pretty far in explaining the Trump derangement syndrome. This is a made-to-order villain for the left. This is someone that the Trump derangement syndrome, I think, is part of the program. It's part of the strong left-right divide. And I think they create these characters, they build them up, so that when they present them to you on TV, they have more impact. Same with other things like villains, bowl-cut shooters. Same goes for other things like global warming. Look at Cli-Fi, climate disaster films. They use these movies in order to really exaggerate the reality of these things so that when you see these fantastical things in the news, it doesn't seem as shocking. There's also this idea here, I think, too, of, like you said, transferring your emotions. I think this is part of what they do with the deep fakery, where you may not recognize that it's the same person, but you might actually pick up on the subtle clues. I mean, so much communication is nonverbal. Eddie Earp says Kanye West and Pete Davidson are both Freemasons. Interesting. I don't know how you know that, but I would be. Look, Pete Davidson's father died on 9/11. What does that say? All right, let's continue. Going through some of my feed here. Again, now that Joe Biden's president, the New York Times admits that Hunter Biden's laptop is real. Who's taking these pictures? It's so contrived. I'm like, why doesn't this guy just get an OnlyFans account? Like, who would want to take pictures of this man? And they're not even like attractive pictures, but why this obsession with taking pictures of himself at various states of undress? Like, he doesn't have an OnlyFans account. He's just giving it away for free. Julia Fox backtracks. She backtracks on her comments, suggesting that Kanye West is harmless. So there you have it. The narrative is developing. All right. Let me go back to my phones. 833-311-1984. Oh, by the way, I found this out. I was looking at occult symbolism and all these hand signs. You know the devil horns? Gene Simmons. Gene Simmons, mask hole, vax hole, fascist, Gene Simmons. I mean, this guy killed one of his, he didn't necessarily kill somebody, but one of his crew members died of COVID. And here he is on tour, telling us, lock down, wear your mask, and these total hypocrites are engaging in these massive super spreader events. Like, he ought to be held for that. But anyway, Kiss tried to trademark the devil horns. They didn't let him do it, I guess, because I think it's a sign language sign for I love you. But yes, Kiss tried to actually trademark it, but I think they got into some kind of beef with another group called Coven, who put out an album in 1966, 1967, where they used that hand sign. So it was sort of a back and forth, and apparently Gene Simmons and Coven have been going back and forth over who owns the devil horn sign. They've been going over it until I guess 2017. It's been settled that nobody's going to trademark it. But Gene Simmons, guy prances around in a bat suit, and he's one of the he was really bad. He was the one who said, "If you're not vaxxed, you are an enemy." Do you remember he said that? He said you're an enemy. Salty says Achu Akbar. Yeah, I remember that was a thing in 2020 at peak paranoia. If you coughed or sneezed, everybody looked at you like you just like you have a bomb vest on. By the way, yes, it is the spring equinox today, March 20th. I guess it was spring equinox today at 3:33, and I think it might be significant. Again, just for context, Virgo, personified as Persephone, gets taken to Hades at the autumn equinox. So here we are at the spring equinox, and I'm wondering if maybe this might be somewhat portentous because we know now that Hades is Pluto. Pluto returned to the point where it was in 1776 on 222. So I'm thinking maybe with the season changing, this could be when the Kraken is released. So I'm just pointing it out. Keep your eye out, maybe on the water. I'm not sure what the Kraken actually is. Someone in chat asked me if I know about the hidden hand signs, talking about the Masonic hand signs, like the hand in the jacket. Yeah, I'd highly recommend a book called Codex Magica. Codex Magica by Tex Mars. It's just a collection of pictures, and it really does go through pretty much all of the hand signs that we constantly see all around, and explains their use, their origin. He has one of the best explanations for the possible meaning of 322 with the Skull and Bones Society. For him, it has something to do with the Garden of Eden, and 322 being, I guess, Genesis, the part where they take the bite from the apple or something. Okay, check this out. This is trippy. This is from a few years ago. It has to do with some kind of 3,000-year-old occult police force operating in California, calling themselves Knights Templar. Have any of you seen this? I'm just going to play this clip. I remember looking into this when I first started looking into Kamala Harris, the Joker. I think the Washington Post called her. But yeah, there was this something she was somewhat connected to here, and it has to do with a fake police force or some kind of occult was the word that they used, a police force, and it claims to have some
California
kind
accused of running
3,000-year heritage. Here, let me go and play this.
a fake police department and put under arrest. One of the suspects even works for California Attorney General Kamala Harris. I'm 48 Hours Crime Siders, Michelle Sagona. The ruse began in January when the San Diego Sheriff's Office says various police chiefs in Southern California began to receive letters from the Masonic Fraternal Police Department. The letter said specifically that David Henry was now the chief and he was requesting a meeting with each agency. According to a press release, Captain Roosevelt Johnson of the Santa Clarita Valley Sheriff's Office actually accepted a meeting with Henry, Tonette Hayes, and Brandon Keel. They showed up dressed in uniforms and said they were setting up shop in the area. All three were arrested and now charged with impersonating a peace officer. The group claims to have jurisdiction in 33 states and in Mexico. They allegedly believe they're descendants of the Knights Templar.
So this occult police force associated with Kamala Harris or operating, right beneath her, it would have been on her radar. But yeah, they claimed that they had jurisdiction in 33 states, including Mexico. Like, what is this about? And what the video shows you is a whole lot of police badges that have Masonic emblems on them.
The group claims to have jurisdiction in 33 states and in Mexico. They allegedly believe they're descendants of the Knights Templar.
So Kamala Harris's aide was arrested for running a fake police department. Badges, IDs, weapons, uniforms. Prior to their arrest, none of these three had run-ins with the law. The trio started sending letters to the heads of local law enforcement announcing that they had been announcing this person had been elected the head of the MFPD. Anyway, strange story. Almost sounds unbelievable. Yeah, the book that I mentioned is Codex Magica. So if you haven't read Codex Magica, it's by Tex Mars. Tex Mars, no relation to Jim Mars. Both of them are excellent writers. So here we go. And both of them recently deceased. Codex Magica, Secret Signs, Mysterious Symbols. I had a hard copy. I'm not a hard copy, a paperback. It's like a phone book. And I went through it page by page. It's a great collection. I mean, you can find all the stuff on the internet, but it really does help to have it all in a book. And he has a lot of great explanations. He's a minister, a pastor, and I don't have any religion or whatever, but I often read books from people who are believers in this or that, and it doesn't matter to me. I'm in it for their research, even if I don't agree with their final conclusions. And Tex Mars is definitely a great source. His research is practically unimpeachable. I will put a link there, Codex Magica, for the Amazon book. You can probably find it. You might find it at a library, I'm not sure. Okay, let's see here. Going through comments. Erica Bear said, I heard about Codex Magica from Freeman Fly. Interesting channel, Freeman Fly. I think I first learned about the Georgia Guidestones from his channel. One thing that puzzles me, okay, so the Georgia Guidestones will be 42 years old in 2 days. I believe that they appeared, let me take a look at that. Probably timed near the equinox. Okay, so they were installed 3/22/1980. So the Georgia Guidestones are going to turn 42 on Tuesday. Interesting. But one of my points about it is that 40 years ago, the goal of culling the population down to 500,000 might have been achievable. But now here we are in 2022, and there's so many, the population has metastasized. There are billions. So it just seems like they didn't meet their goal, and it's a little late. Like, I don't know if they can actually meet their quotas here. But anyway, the Georgia Guidestones, 19-foot high monuments, a 10-part message about the conservation of mankind and future generations, turning 42 on Tuesday. All right, let me see here. I'm going to be live in the morning as well, so get on the newsletter if you haven't, and if you want to get live stream notifications. Let me go through my list of my Minds account, my list of links, just see if we haven't missed anything here. Okay, so here we did a lot of research this week into the PSYOP involving Marilyn Manson and Evan Wood. And this is a fascinating thing if you look into it. So Evan Wood plays Dolores in Westworld, and her relationship with the Man in Black mirrors her relationship with Marilyn Manson. Well, what's more, in the video Heart-Shaped Glasses that she's trying to get pulled from the internet, she plays the character Lolita, who is actually, well, in the character from Lolita, whose name is Dolores. And in this case, she's alleging that she was raped on set by Marilyn Manson. So again, you have this reoccurring theme. Marilyn Manson, Man in Black, Dolores. It's a fascinating study here because what we're looking at, if you ask me, is a PSYOP decades in the making. I mean, I think this is part of a long-term takedown. I think we're looking at something bigger than just Marilyn Manson. It's not a coincidence that his other ex, Rose McGowan, has the Rose Army. So you have the Rose Army, the whole Me Too crowd at Weinstein. Now you've got the more recent girlfriend, this Evan Wood, who of course is raising this thing called the Phoenix Act. So these are parallel stories. I'm not sure where it's all leading. It's not over yet, but there's also hints and indications that we're looking at a PSYOP going back, even in 1998 I referenced, 1999, the video Coma White talking about the idea of JFK being the second coming. Such an absurd idea, but now it's mainstream Q thought that JFK was Jesus. Let's see, someone asked, any cool facts about the spring solstice? Well, I'm just looking at, we look at patterns, you know, like the 322 thing is almost too predictable, and that's what we started talking about Codex Magica. In fact, there's a new rocket that NASA's about to blast to the moon. Let me bring this one up. I think it's called the SLS. But I was looking into the specifications, and it's 322 feet high. NASA's Mega Moon rocket spacecraft completes its first roll to the launch pad. Yeah, so this thing is 322 feet high. Again, 322 is associated with the Skull and Bones Society. It's associated with the concept of Saturn. 322, this is the order of death, Kronos, Saturn, however you want to look at this. But the height of the rocket being 322 is sort of consistent when you get into the symbolism of this god, of this Earth god they worship, and of course the Saturn V rocket, which is what got us to the moon. Phase Polarizer says that spring solstice is auspicious for hypersonic missiles. Yeah, I've been looking at reports about the various things we're supposed to be afraid of, and a lot of these things have just kind of lost their ability to shock me. You know, like, for example, once you've seen a few fake rocket launches, once you know how they fake these things, let me explain this really quick for my take on it, because there's a, I think it's called, there was a rocket, one of these private rocket companies, I think it was one of these rocket companies. Was it Rocket Labs? I'll find out which one. Oh, Astra Rocket. Okay, so you got to see this video first. This is from CNN. Astra Rocket did this launch, and the thing went sideways. Okay, so we're talking about how they do these rocket launches. And I suspect, and many agree with me, that we're just looking at cylindrical blimps with jet-assisted takeoff. And once it gets out of sight, out of mind, they replace it. They cut to a CGI rocket. So knowing this, and believing this, that we're looking at blimps, I see these rockets, these supersonic missiles, these hypersonic missiles, nuclear warheads, and to me they're all part of the same show, because the special effects are equally bad. And you rarely see the kind of glitches that you're about to see right now. And this is very unusual because this is a rocket blasting off sideways, but it keeps its nose up. So you explain, if you can, how this could happen. Again, you're looking at a rocket launch from August. It's literally going sideways about 6 feet above the ground. So what is more likely here? That this is a real rocket as described, or that you're looking at a blimp, a balloon? Look at that. Real time, it's just hovering, and it's going sideways. I mean, if you can't tell, and you can even see it, looks even bendy, but Kelimento says hypersonic weapons such as Russia's 3M22 fly so fast and low. Well, okay, so we had a 322 PSYOP. When was it? It was in 2019? We have this is a reoccurring theme. We had the Christchurch shooting around that time. But yeah, I always keep my eyes on that date because it's typical. Eddie Earp says, look up the new Esquire magazine cover with Keanu Reeves and explain what you find. Okay, let's take a look. Again, that's Astra rocket. If you want to take a look, I just think that they're noobs. They're not as polished as Musk. And I don't even think that Musk takes the risks that these smaller companies still have to. I think they've gone full CGI. And I will see videos of rockets landing, and I know them to be CGI, and people on Twitter share them like they're real until someone points out, no, this one's technically CGI. Like, you almost need, they need it to be pointed out to them. Oh, this one's real, this one's fake. And I think this is what the previous caller brought up, about this merging of real and fake. And do you remember what Elon Musk said about the car going into space? He said it must be real because it looks so fake. Like, does that make any sense? It must be true because it sounds like bullshit. He must be smart because he sounds so dumb. Okay, I see how that works. Okay, so I'm looking up the cover of Keanu Reeves on the Esquire. I'll take a look here. Even Neo has been demonized recently in the news, speaking of Keanu Reeves. There was some story I saw where it's like saying that conspiracy theorists thought he was Neo. This idea that there's this Neo complex. They want to save the world, fight the Matrix. He was in another movie, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. They did a remake, and to save the world, they had to play some song at 113 beats per minute. Think about that, 113. Look up the 113 Pixar connection and how often that number is used in conjunction with this idea of a reset, a reboot, etc. Okay, so I'm not sure what I'm supposed to be looking at. I just see Keanu Reeves on Esquire. And these magazine covers do often tell stories. The Economist is quite literally like prophetic. It's beyond prophetic. It's like it's scripting. It's not even coincidence. Let me give you an example. Economist from winter of 2017 called Chinese Sharp Power. There's 3 I could point at that are pretty spot on like this one, but the Sharp Power one, it's got basically a globe covered in spikes looking like a COVID ball. And then the China part is highlighted. And then the actual subtitle is The New Shape of Chinese Influence. So I'm like, wait, new shape, novel shape, Chinese influence? What about Chinese influenza? What about novel Chinese influenza? And then a world takeover. Like, this picture pretty much tells it all. And I saw another one too. It was I think it was a Tea Party based one, but it was an Economist cover where it had a man in a red hat inside of an arrow, like the male symbol, pointing down. And the idea here was that men are somehow, I don't know, it was just like, it was about making a statement about men in America. And the thing is, the man inside of the red circle, the Mars symbol pointed down, is wearing a red hat. And so the Mars symbol pointed down in this instance looked like a Q. So it looked like a QAnoner with the red hat. And this is during the Obama administration when that one came out. Yeah, the weaker sex. That's the one. The weaker sex. Let me pull that one up. Economist, weaker sex. So look up that one in Sharp Power. Yeah, this was from 2015. Pre-Q. Definitely pre-Q. You got a MAGA with the red hat, and he's inside of a Q. It's supposed to be the Mars symbol. Infinite Plane Radio. Okay, bear with me just a second, caller. It looks like you know what? You're going to have to call right back. I try to hit answer and I hit the back arrow. So call right back. Let's see here. Calimento says the spikes on the Economist cover look like the finance pyramid in San Francisco, the globe covered in finance. Well, there's a lot of communication here in just symbols. And this is prophetic. I mean, look. This is 2 years before Q, and this is actually before Trump came out with his red hat. This is before MAGA. So you have a pre-MAGA image here. I mean, this is pre-MAGA, but it looks like the average MAGA guy, but now he's inside of a Q. So they turned the Mars symbol into a Q by, flipping it. Pretty ingenious. Hey, thanks for calling back.
What's going on, man?
Just looking at prophetic magazine covers. Have you seen these?
No, I haven't. I was trying to get you to look at that Esquire. Yeah, what you were looking at was the hidden hand, and it was and inside the magazine. I was in a bookstore and I saw it, and he's got the lion claw inside of it. I mean, it's all connected. But I was saying the because I've heard you talk about Pete Davidson, the Kanye thing. I've 100% seen them both in magazines. I've seen them on the front, Pete Davidson on the front of a magazine making some kind of Mason sign. And you can look up multiple Kanye West where he's holding a hidden sign and all kinds of other Mason signs over his career. Because, I mean, he's been around for who knows how long now. But it's all scripted. I mean, it's and as far as Kanye making tweets all the time and all that, my buddy talks about it because he lives in California and he's surrounded by all that out in LA, and it's just like it really is just a complete movie.
Fascinating. Well, he's got the connection to the reality TV world, and I kind of think so too. And this is a great point because people want to say, well, maybe this person is just a pawn, maybe they don't know they're being used. No, when you see them communicating in the hidden language and they're all using it uniformly, that's the reason why I recommended Codex Magica, because it shows you there is indeed a language. It has its own syntax and it's universal. When I was first learning about Masons, I remember I talked to one and he said that it's a universal thing, that you could be in another country and you throw up the hand signs, and the Masons in that area, even if they use the Quran instead of a Bible, it doesn't matter. It's the same signs and symbols, and it's a language they communicate above the heads of the uninitiated. And they look at us as what they call hoodwinked. We're in the dark. We have hoods over our heads. We're ignorant.
Yeah, and I feel like you don't even get to a certain level unless you're in that, because they wouldn't dare give anybody else power. So yeah, they script the reality, and definitely. Well, a lot of there's a video, I can't remember the name of it, but he explains all those hand signs, and I mean they've been going on since the 50s. I mean, yeah, the Beatles and all them showing it, and of course Aleister Crowley, and when it all started. And if it is all scripted, I mean, yeah, they just it's supposedly, I guess, the deeper you go, it pays homage to Satan, right? Lucifer and all that.
You could say that, but I would say, yeah, more accurate than not. I would say so.
I can't know the name of the video. A guy breaks it down, and he goes into detail, and he's saying it. Of course, Albert Pike and all his writings, and of course they say Lucifer, the light bearer, and all that. But
well, here's the thing. So you're initiated into the lodge, and you're shown the light, and you're you're brought in with a hood over your head and they take it off. So what's being communicated is that everybody outside the temple is in the dark and the people inside get the light. So it's not that they're worshiping Lucifer necessarily, it's that they are monopolizing the light, whatever that happens to be. And I look at the way that everything is so compartmentalized. It's like, well, I think the media itself is like a secret society. And not everybody in media is a part of it. They don't know how far up it goes, or they're not aware. Most, I would say, bottom
No, I
rung
agree with
reporters,
you.
there's no way they all know. But yeah, I think you're right, though. Kanye, Pete Davidson, these guys have to be initiates into the club, very high up.
Do you think it could be, because me and my buddy talk about it, it's a lot of it people who look at it at the lower level or whatever you're saying, like hoodwinked, they program people to act the same way. Like, remember that Will Smith thing, Will Smith and Jada Pinkett, and like how she came out and say she did all this. Do you remember all this or no? This same type of story, but
Go on, because I'm vaguely familiar.
well,
I follow Will Smith's
it came,
shenanigans, but
it was just a while ago, yeah, and it came out how Jada was cheating on this guy or whatever, and then Will Smith had to accept it, but it was all public, and it was all put out there, and we were talking about how they really do put all this out there to program how women think and what they'll do because they look up to celebrities, and the same people who follow Kanye and follow,
yes, yes, good
they
point.
idolize these people, so whatever move they make, because like then other kids in the younger generation will follow.
Yeah, you're right about
Their
that because
ideas.
Will Smith has been brought out. You see him kissing robots. He tried to kiss Sophia. These are also celebrity-driven psyops is a term that I've used to describe because the celebrities do lead the way. And I've even seen some foreshadowing. Like Kim Kardashian has frozen her Facebook before because of conspiracy theories. So I think the celebrities are going to get
No, I
people
remember that.
behind
I
it.
remember that. I
You
remember
remember
when she
that?
did that.
And so that's to say,
Yes,
hey,
I
look,
remember that.
we all need to stand up and lock down voluntarily on the internet in order to purge the bad memes, the bad viral memes. I think they want to do on the internet what they did in real life in terms of a quarantine.
No, yeah, definitely. I could see. Oh, yeah, I have a good point about that. And you're absolutely right. I remember, okay, when you go down deep on the Twitter rabbit hole, you see the most raunchiest shit like you're ever, like, I mean, I'm talking about awful porn, like just raunchy shit. And then when Donald Trump made all those tweets, like, I remember when people were saying, oh, what did he get banned from? That, and then Instagram, like they banned him from all sites, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And you see all this terrible shit on there. And me and my buddy were talking about, I was like, how in the world does he get kicked off? And it's because he was being used as an example, which he's probably doing. He's in there on the whole thing too, but he's making those tweets and they use him as an example, as a cancel culture, right? Where you can't say anything. And Kim K is coming down there and saying basically, they need to ban anybody who makes conspiracy theories. And they basically were saying, we'll ban the president, so we'll definitely ban you too.
Right.
If you come up with any.
Yeah, same with Joe Rogan.
But,
We're going to cancel the biggest podcast from the world. And I called it out last spring when Joe Rogan was brought up and they pulled 42 tracks. I said 42 is code, and I've seen it again and again for somebody taking a fall. And look what they've done. So, and then 113 is a number frequently we see with this Phoenix and a sacrifice. And they pulled 113 tracks total. So I took this to mean... I'm like, they're gonna use him as an example, and they have. If you've noticed, they've used Joe Rogan.
And he knows it.
He's playing. He has to be. And on
100%. It's all care. It's all in it. Yeah.
And
you don't get a podcast like that and get that big unless you're on the in crowd. That's just the way I think of it. It's just
Well, I think so too. I think there's a lot of gatekeepers, and they need them. They serve a purpose because it keeps us corralled. And with Rogan now, because of him, now. You have Spotify with a pretext to go through all kinds of censorship measures, and he set that up.
Yeah, you're right. It starts the ball rolling. You're exactly right.
Yeah,
and it
exactly.
starts it at a higher level. Like, oh, we did it with him. So now, it starts. And back with the Trump thing, I even said it. I was like, okay, I know we're in not a communist, like a country like Russia or anything or China that can shut them complete down, or the president can shut them down. But I said that I was like. I was like, how did they shut him down? I said, doesn't he? He's the most like he's the president. Shouldn't he have the power to shut them down? I was like, I don't get it. And then you realize, you take a step back and it's like, it's all a game. It's all some entertainment. It's like, and I kept saying that. I was like, how in the hell are they banning him? I said, I thought he was our president. Shouldn't he have the power to shut down Twitter if he wants? But then I understand we're in a democracy, all that, free country, freedom. But it's like, I just don't get it. I don't.
No, you said this is actually something I think it's worth bringing up here. Is just the fact that there's a massive double standard where, yeah, you could have unregulated porn on Twitter that nobody's checking or censoring, and people aren't getting censored. You can pretty much get away with almost anything, but then you get into politics at all, and specifically right wing, and now you're a big target. So it tells you what is acceptable and what is not. And I'm like, who decides this? Like, why is what I'm saying hate speech? But then I can point to heavy metal albums where they have songs about dismembering people and killing people. That's fine. What's the difference? Who are they to decide that this is less art than that? You know what I mean? It's arbitrary.
No, it's a whole thing too with the. I mean, a lot of stuff is complete divide and conquer. I mean, anything they give you, it's like the whole. Sometimes I believe in flat Earth, and then I feel like it's sometimes they gave us the flat Earth and just that because it was split. And like you say with Crater Earth, yeah, it's a whole nother option, and it's the same thing with the election. It's like Democrat or Republican, and they don't really want anything else. They just want to split down the middle.
True.
With anything.
Yes.
It's like with that Joe Rogan thing, that another of course with the N-word and all that, and they put the collage together, and that was a big deal. When COVID was going on, I was following a couple Twitter pages, and it's funny, they all got deleted. All that stuff that was going on, and it's like I mean, I don't know if I can go into it too much on here, but it was some interesting stuff. Like they're saying NWA, of course, this page was created, and he was saying that Ice Cube and all that were in on it, and they created this whole psyop from the get-go with the they were talking about hip-hop and the N-word being used not too much in hip-hop, this page, like and then it started being used in the 80s, and then it was a way to divide. The page got deleted, but his writings and everything was very interesting. And they were saying that Ice Cube and all them were. Have you ever watched the Hoax Industry? Like, he used to be called Tupac Hoax.
Yeah, great channel. Great. The Tupac Hoax Revealed. Great production value. I like his work.
Okay, he has a video on how Tupac was could have been a Jew, and Ice Cube and all them, and they're all in on these sacred, like coming from another family, and they claim to come from the hood and whatever, you know what I mean, come from poverty, and that's the whole hip hop story. And he explains a lot of that stuff, and like I said, this guy on this Twitter page really explained it. Of course, they say a lot of hip hop was meant to destroy minds and all that stuff. I mean, the farther you go into it, but a lot of these people are set up, and they don't go to regular schools like us. And that's what a lot of people say. These hip hop artists or any of these entertainers, they come from it could be a bloodline, or they're chosen from outside, and they're taught to play a character, and they buy into the character, and they're fooling the masses, and that's how it. And then people follow suit, thinking that. And this is why you'll get it from any town in America. Like Industry Hoax made a video, why you'll never be a mainstream, whether you're any kind of celebrity. Because when you look at it, it's not hard to do. Acting or anything. Think about it. If you pick up a role, I'm not saying great actors like you can, but you pick up a role, you can get on screen, you can act. But you're not going to get in these good movies or anything. You have to be chosen. And there's so many actors out there. It's like, to get to the top, I really do feel like it really is. It's like you said, the other people are hoodwinked. You go to high school, you grow up in this system. These people don't go to schools. They don't get taught the same things. You hear stories about they're just raised in a whole different different life.
Well, I think there's something to this. Like, Hollywood is, to me, movie magic is quite literally magic, and magic is probably the most suppressed technology. It's not UFOs. It's influencing human minds and controlling reality through human, basically matrix batteries, however you call it. But it's the art of harnessing our attention and manipulating us en masse. And it seems like all of the players on the world stage are in the guild. They're in the club. And I do think we're looking at essentially a stratified society where you have the initiates who are behind the scenes and they know how it works. And there's some good examples I would point to, like you got Mark Kelly, the astronaut, married to was it Gabby Gifford, who went through the headshot ritual, and then he's running for office. He's like a senator. So this guy's been in the space station, he's part of the shooting psyops, and now he's in government. Like these are the three areas, outer
What's his name?
space, the Psywar, politics. They share the same backstage.
No, I agree. And, like, yeah, they can go back and forth too. You're right. And that's why I do believe in character changing and just they die off and then go into, yeah, they can look the same. You take a look and it's like they're doing, yeah, it's the same theater. So it's like they get called up to another movie.
And I don't think you can get into this. I think you're right. I don't think you work your way up the pyramid and you get on the same set with them. I think we're looking at basically like there's a good example of this is the movie Utopia, the American version, which came out in 2020, and it has this Bill Gates like character who fakes a flu pandemic in order to sell vaccines to sterilize the youth. I mean, the movie's interesting, but Utopia is the place where all of the actors that he uses are the crisis actors. So he actually has crisis actors in the movie who get the vax in order to help sell it. And the actor, of course, comes from this place called Utopia. So you have the idea that the influencers who are faking the news, which is something that happens throughout this movie, are separated from us. That there's actually like a wall there.
Utopia, I'll check that out.
Oh yeah, Utopia is
Um,
prophetic, and I think they canceled it after one season because it nailed it. It nailed 2020, and it actually made heroes out of the anti-vaxxers who destroy a warehouse at the end. So that's probably why they canceled it.
but I swear to God, there's an old, I don't know if it was an old Vice episode, and this was years ago. I saw this. It was like maybe eight. I mean, maybe 8 years ago. So has Vice been around that long? I can't remember. But there's this. It was a whole episode about how these people play characters, or not really characters, but they sell stuff. So they market. So China would have this thing where they were trying to sell something, but they needed a white man to sell it because he was more believable. And this guy would get the paper and the script and play a doctor. And I swear to God, this was real life how they would sell this stuff. So that they would give this guy the script about and to read off about let's say he was selling a medicine, and he would get the script and and act like he created it, but he didn't. But they needed him to sell it. The same with like how and it made me think it's the same thing that they do with presidents or any of this stuff. They make them, yeah, they play a character, they give them the script. And I swear to God, I wish I could find this because it would be interesting. I know you'd find it interesting, but I'm not making it up. It was a real show on Vice. It was like, and these guys, but they're like not crisis actors because yeah, they're not playing it. They're just like role playing basically. Like a pharmaceutical company would call them up and say, "Here's the medicine we're trying to sell. We want you to go over here and basically get them to buy it." And all they
Okay,
would do,
okay. Like Beatlemania. Beatlemania is a good example of a psyop to artificial, like to create the perception that these are highly desirable and the women are chasing them around. And this is what they've done in Ukraine too. They do Beatlemania style news reports where they focus on a crowd of people so it looks like it's packed, and then you look back and the rest of the scene is empty. So it's a lot of smoke and mirrors, and I think that's another example of it. We're looking at shills basically.
okay, yeah, that's basically. And one more thing I was gonna say about that hidden hand with the. Have you seen the new Matrix?
I haven't seen the new Matrix yet. I probably should. I'm surprised I haven't taken the time.
Yeah, there's not. I don't think it's that great. I mean, it's compared to the other ones, but uh, it definitely dove into some weird shit, and I feel like it kind of touched on the algorithms and stuff. And then but I watched the movie first, and I was weirded out by it. I was like, man, that's what's going on out here? I mean, I don't know. I don't want to give no spoiler alert, but it basically was saying that they've always controlled us through emotions, where like they could send emotions to people, and like, of course, you make your decisions based off that, but usually it would lead through the emotion. You know what I mean? If you get angry or whatever. And he said, but we in one of the parts of the movie, when you watch it, he says, but we got tired of that, and we just went full into basically, yeah, controlling you through your. And I feel like he was talking about our phones, where they already know what we like through our algorithms. But I don't know if any of you or your callers or anybody's listening. or that's in this chat, it happens to me a lot where I just think of something and then it pops up on my phone or my algorithm.
Oh yeah. I mean that's a strange phenomenon, and I've been joking about being Neuralink to my phone, but yeah, it's so subtle, and I don't really think you're too far off with this. With the phone is basically a spy. 1984, a nightmare world where everybody is under constant surveillance. You could never escape the screen. Winston Smith had to like cringe in the corner to not be in the sight of the screen. Well, now there is no point where people aren't face to face with that thing. Some people take it in the shower with them. I mean, the phones are waterproof now. Total surveillance, and it's also a mind reading device because your every thought gets communicated into it.
I listen to Infinite Plane Society in my shower. No, no, you're watch the movie honestly, and you'll know what I'm talking about. The part where they like they're slowing. It's a part where they're slowing the bullet down, and of course the bullet's going real slow. But he starts talking, and the way he's talking, I'm like, is that what the fuck's going on right now? And I was like, why'd they put that in the movie? And then, of course, he's on the front cover, the Squire, Hidden Hand. It's like, these motherfuckers are really architecture. And they just create this whole realm. And it's like, they tell you in bits and pieces what's going on. But of course, I mean, it could have meant like through COVID shots, of course, like where they, and I kind of meant that, I kind of thought that where he said, we got tired of letting you decide. And of course, you hear all this talk with the vaccinations where it could be connected to some kind of
Yes,
knows, I
yeah,
don't know.
exactly. Like the Internet of Things becoming the Internet of People, where it's part of integrating us into the metaverse in a physical way.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
I think there's
So
something to that. I think there's something to it. Have you seen
watch the movie.
Have you seen the movie Free Guy?
No, I heard you talking about it in another one, and I wrote it down. I want to watch it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Free Guy
But
you'd like because it's a perfect combination of The Matrix, The Truman Show, and They Live. And it covers the same kind of area, I think. And it may have some of the same vibes as the new Matrix. I'll have to check that one out, but it sounds somewhat analogous.
it's got the same vibe as Truman Show. And what else? They Live.
They Live, because They Live, you put on the
Okay. Yeah.
glasses to see through it, and this is about an NPC becoming self-aware, and
You're-
it's pretty intense though because I think it's a pretty good allegory for
I
waking up to the
I watched the
metaverse.
video. Yeah, no, definitely, I agree. I watched a video not too long ago on, I think it was on BitChute or something, and it came up, and it was about real life. They Live glasses, and have you ever seen this? And basically it would read the frequency.
Oh, okay,
And the
interesting.
military had it. The guy, it made sense a little bit. I don't know, but it kind of made sense. He was like, when you put them on, you could read the frequency and whether it was a human or if it was like something from not in this realm, but which
Fascinating,
could be what's
fascinating.
going on out here. But yeah, I don't know.
Well, the Free Guy movie, I think is it's more recent, but I think it's kind of like They Live in the sense that the glasses worn by the playing characters distinguish them from the NPCs. So the NPCs don't have the glasses to see the metaverse. They think it's real. Whereas the people who are coming in who are actually real people are wearing the glasses. So the NPC puts on the glasses and he begins to see it as they see it. But it's the idea of in the movie, the obvious version is just an AI coming to, or somebody becoming, this thing becoming artificially intelligent. But I think it's more about real life and what happens when you put on the glasses that let you see the metaverse for what it is. But however you take it, it's probably a similar message. So I'm going to check out the new Matrix. I'll probably write a review on it. Appreciate the recommendation and reminder.
All right, and one more thing, I'll let you get off. What's it called? Night. What's that movie called? The one where they supposedly are in everybody's heads and controlling us. Midnight Alley, or what? Not Midnight Alley.
There's
Dark City.
Dark City is one you're thinking of, right? With the clock. Yeah, Dark City with Keith Sutherland.
Yeah, and it's a lot of people say that's what's going on because through life you always wonder like where'd that thought come from? How'd that pop in my head? And they say that's what a lot of, because I've read articles and stuff that there could be something that's where our thoughts come from, and we really don't have random thoughts. There's people out there that can place people against each other and all kinds of different things. And that's why there's people say they went to psych wards because they figured it out. And I've seen these movies where a lot of people in the lunatic asylum had senses that they did figure out what's going on, but then they tried to explain to people, and there's no way other people are going to listen. Like, okay, you know the one part in that movie, and I remember some guy wrote an article about it. He looks at the other guy at the subway, and he says, I found out what's going on out here. And he said, but I found a way out. And then he jumps in front of the train. You remember that part?
Vaguely. I'm going to rewatch it, but I vaguely, and the idea here is that we're in some kind of matrix time space prison for souls, almost like and the color in the movie. You have all the Saturnian symbolism, and I think that's all, and the black rimmed hats, and that's all I think symbolic of Saturn, time, the Grim Reaper, time control, and yeah, the clock, of course, Chronos. So I see all
No,
kinds
you're
of
right. They
stuff
all
in there.
worship Saturn. That makes sense.
They do. Jeff Bezos bought a $42 million clock and had it installed inside of a mountain. Why 42? Well, 42 is a way that they sigillistically represent Saturn. Chronos, the clock, it's an altar to Saturn. They worship this thing. And I think you might be onto something. Dark City may be pointing at the nature of the controllers because they clearly know about time because their whole religious paradigm is based on astrotheology and precise timing of worldly events with the celestial narrative and story.
Well, that all makes sense, yeah. And what's the verse a lot of people put in there? We wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against...
Right, principalities. Yeah, that's the thing.
Okay, and that's
what
they're talking about is the thoughts. And that's why I remember my grandma was religious and stuff. It's like you need to decipher which, and of course, gurus and all say what thoughts are yours and what are not. And then some people say it could be the ego. Then you go deeper, and some people say it could be Satan. And that's what the Albert Pike and them is. They're telling you, like, buy into it. Whatever those voices are to take over and evil. Or remember, Aleister Crowley was like, do it that way. So they're saying to buy into it and like listen to it. And that's why people are like, you'll hear all these old stories about people who are murderers or serial, and they're like, they're just listening to the voices and they're whatever. But I mean, that's why it could get all sketchy. It gets a little, it gets pretty crazy because yeah, you don't know if you're, and then you, like I said, with these phones and these algorithms, I'm like, oh, fuck, yeah.
And look, we're in a Black Mirror universe. I look at the phone and it's got the Black Mirror obelisk, and it's not just the phone, it's the way the technology is sold to us. I would even say that the television set is a black cube altar to Saturn, and it's programming you into their matrix, and that the iPhone is just more advanced now.
Okay, let me ask you this, though. If you think about technology, it's like, and of course they have all the create electricity, Tesla and Benjamin and all this, you created it, and they stuck a rod out and electricity. I don't believe none of that bullshit. I believe definitely that these like even the TV back then, it's like, who created that? In a lab or some kind of like testing? Like they're creating an image, spit it back to us. Like you think about caveman days and all this, and it's like, yeah, we came a long way, technology and all that, but it's just really weird. Like even pictures are weird. It's like you think about black and white. Like on your phone, you can change a picture to black and white. You can go to color. And I used to think, I was like, well, was this technology all the way back then? But they just, or like people talk about the Great Reset. All this technology was all around. They're just giving it to us little by little. And they always had color. They just gave it to you in black and white in first to just, it's like war. And it's like I heard you talk about with the Ukraine war. And a lot of people say that like Hitler was all just a complete character they created. He's the boogeyman. And then half of that war, of course, if it was all funded by the Rockefellers and all that, it's like, was any of it real?
Well, I know. Like, I mean, look, we're talking about like dummy tanks. Look at the dummy tanks of World War II. Military units that create inflatable tank props because they're creating a Psywar. But you mentioned alien technology, the TV and the smartphone. And when you look at the story of 2001: A Space Odyssey, it starts off with man as sort of these like monkeys or apes that are evolving. But it's the monolith, this alien technology that just mysteriously appears, that seems to precipitate their evolution. And so it could be that we've been given something to speed our evolution, maybe not from aliens, but maybe from some elite that were holding it. And it's also worth noting that Space Odyssey is about David Bowman and he goes to Jupiter. But in the original book, they go to Saturn. And they say they couldn't recreate Saturn for the film realistically, but I think that would have just been too obvious for them to associate the Saturn and the monolith. But anyway, um, you're onto something
All
with
right,
that.
one more.
And one more thing too.
Go
Look,
ahead.
you brought up Dark City. Look at the guy from Dark City, the bald, ghostly, pallid guy with the black suit, and tell me he doesn't look exactly like Klaus Schwab. The Dark City
Yeah,
alien thing looks like looks like Klaus
no, you're
Schwab.
right. Yeah, I mean, yeah, and that could just be programming and bringing it in. It's all weird. I always ask this question too. I'm gonna go ahead and ask this question. And like, if if let's say all that stuff is real, like with this whole, I mean, I know a lot of channels have that too, where they say this all. Uh, what's the word I'm looking for? Where we're crossing into robot and humanism,
Yeah,
or what's
transhumanism.
the
Right.
okay, transhumanism. That's what I was okay. And it's for, let's say that, like they say that the devil's the prince of air, and all these and everything's connected, and that's why it's becoming faster now. And it's always been a holy war. You look at all the movies, Lord of the Rings, everything, good and evil, this and that, and it's always a fight for the battle of it. And I always ask this question, like, so if it is, and I'd like to ask a Mason this, or who anybody, if I mean, if all this shit's real, if let's say God is real, and Satan was thrown down, casted out because he wanted to be like God, and what's the point of it all? Like, let's say God and Lucifer are all fighting over souls, and all this is real. Like, is it just a fight between them, or what's the reason? Like, if we all die and we go somewhere, well, I guess, I mean, there's all kinds of religions out there, but I mean, I guess
Right.
that's
Good.
why some
That's
people
a good
don't believe in
question.
anything.
Yeah, no, it's a good question. And I've been looking at this same kind of question, like what's the point, and what is our role in it? Are we captive audiences? Are we part of it? Are we God, split up into billions of different perceivers collectively so that he could learn himself? All these different explanations for the point of this existence. But why this dynamic with the elite and then the masses? That's the interesting thing to me. There's that movie The Village, where you have the elders, and El is another name of Saturn, and it's the elders who keep the villagers in the village by keeping them ignorant, by keeping them afraid of what's on the
I
outside.
agree. That's what I was just,
And
yeah,
that's
go
such
ahead.
a reoccurring theme that, to me, the only way we're going to get any answers is if we find out what they know that they don't want us to. And we're not going to find out from the books they've given us. I don't think that we can get all the answers within the frame of reference that we've been given. We have to go outside. And the movie Free Guy that I mentioned, for him to break free of that little matrix he's in, the main character, and to free everybody from the control of the evil guy that runs the free city and turned it into a nightmare, he has to break out of that little area. He has to go beyond the boundary. And it has this kind of interesting kind of flat earth tie-in, because beyond the established land there's a hidden land. And it looks like the flat earth map from the Illuminati playing card, like the square little plot of land. But once he goes there, it invalidates the model as it was given. It shows the whole thing was false. So, I just kind of think that the only way we get the answers to these deeper questions is we find out what they're hiding. And how do we do that? I To me, it's just a matter of reverse engineering their lies, and you can eventually kind of figure out the truth by sifting through that.
I'll have to check. I think I've seen that movie. I don't know Villager, but I agree with you saying. Sometimes I do think it is. Maybe it is just all. It truly is about power, and that's why they, like I said earlier, where they send us all to certain schools, and basically we learn a whole nother realm than what they know. And celebrity, like I said, celebrity wise, where the Pete Davidson thing, the Kanye, we follow all this, and it's like all scripted and not real at all. And basically, they, like you said, they keep us hoodwinked, and we look at them and basically feed them power and energy. because people, I mean, I don't, but I know it's all a joke. But yeah, most people look at them as icons, celebrities. They make all this music, and it's like they're held at and they know that, and that's why I agree with you. They keep the people. I mean, and you can't do, and the reason why you can't do nothing about it because they understand resources too. That's why they'll never give anybody that certain amount of power, and if you do, then if you're not on their side, they'll usually take you out, or they have the means to do that. Where they just keep it steady like that.
Yeah, exactly. And people who look into conspiracies know this better than anyone else, because we're constantly finding that whenever you get into an area of discourse where they want to regulate it, they have gatekeepers, they have false explanations. Then they try overt, heavy-handed censorship tactics. And the one thing they don't want us talking about is the fact that we're looking at a stage. They don't want us to have that meta conversation. They want us to talk about Team A versus Team B, Tribe A versus Tribe B. They don't want us to step off the stage and look at the puppet masters, look at the principalities, whatever they are. But yeah.
Industry Hoax has one video that, like you just said, handlers and people that keep you in check. I swear to God, he has a video that's really weird. And it's basically from the preacher to the school teachers to anybody in your towns could be like kind of like they live where they're keeping you in check. And if you step outside the box, that basically, yeah, they'll put you right back in it. And they could get people to get in your circle. And of course, what's the call where people think they're being followed? What's that? All that shit.
Gang stalking. Gang stalking is a very powerful way to control someone's behavior. It's a terrifying experience.
And this guy, if you watch the video, I could find the link. I could try to send it to you, but he just taught. It's really weird. From preachers to anything, from, of course, police officers, anything. They could be honestly just making sure everybody's in check. Where same thing, where they're in the know, in the whole town, any small town across the world, and of course America, and what we the way society's ran. Like it could be your teacher. I mean, who knows? It could be. And it's funny, in the comments, people were saying the same thing. They're like, "Is my mom one?" It's like you really don't even know if you were born from her. I mean, and think about that. A lot of people, I've seen videos where they say that you're supposed to be able to remember that stuff, but that's when, of course, people say that from the shots they give you and all that, you can't remember any of that stuff. But I don't know, because you can't remember. A lot of kids can't remember. I can't remember until a certain age of like 3 or 4. But they say you should be able to remember farther back. I don't know if that's true or not, but
Interesting. I'm not sure. I do know that one of the first things they teach you in the schools is about the ball and about the dinosaurs that you love so much, and how the dinosaurs all got killed by a big rock from the sky. It's like, why is it so important that we learn that lesson before we can even really formulate sentences?
let me ask you this: were humans around at that time when dinosaurs were like cavemen, at least Neanderthal?
According to the official story, 66.6 million years ago, no, but they're always changing their story. They really are. I mean, these days they say that that there's dinosaur bones on the moon because the Earth was hit so hard that it splashed the moon, basically. So there's like
That's
dinosaur
crazy.
bones. It's crazy, right? But have you looked into the moon
like
rocks?
That's like 9/11 when the no, go ahead.
Oh yeah, no,
Moon rock.
the like 9/11 story.
I was just going to say the 9/11 story where the plane, it burned and disintegrated everything, but the black box still existed.
Yeah, same level of absurdity, same script writers. But the thing about the moon landing, I keep bringing this up, is that the astronauts gave moon rocks to the government of Holland, and they were all petrified wood. So, if you believe in the moon landing and you believe what those astronauts said, then you must therefore believe that the moon is made out of wood, petrified wood. How could you not believe that and still be logically consistent?
All right, rewind that. Say that again.
If the moon rocks have all been demonstrated to be made of petrified wood, then how can we conclude anything but wood and moon? And I bring this up because no one's going to agree that the moon is made out of wood, but I'm not the one that gave the government of Holland petrified wood and called it moon rocks. And so I just think it's one of the weakest points that they have, is the only evidence they have for the moon landing is really not really supportive of their little story.
No, I agree. Yeah, it could be. Yeah, I mean, who knows what that thing is? I mean, what do you honestly think it is? Like, I've seen the videos where people zoom in and it's like a water hologram and shit. I'm just like, I don't know.
Yeah, I've seen that one too. As far as what the moon is, that's a good question. I don't believe that it's landable necessarily. I don't believe it's the distance they say. And they show us the back of the moon in CGI. I don't believe that's what the back of the moon would look like. I have a lot of questions about it. I'm fascinated by the explanations or the theories of Vibes of Cosmos, who correlated a group of craters on the moon with continents on the Earth, suggesting that the moon is a projection from below onto the ionosphere, and that what we're actually seeing aren't craters but the dark spots of the continents, like shadows, kind of like the bat signal. The bat.
Okay, what's this called? What's this called?
Vibes of Cosmos. And what's fascinating is you wouldn't arrive at this unless you'd looked at flat Earth maps before, because you'd have to be able to conceptualize the continents on a plane. The thing about this theory is that there's like a third of the moon that you could point to that would seemingly correlate with the continents that we know. So if he's right, then we occupy on Earth, or what we think is Earth, really only a fraction of the total landmass around us. It's an interesting theory. Vibes of Cosmos, he doesn't really talk. It's just he overlays maps of the continents and countries with detail over these specific craters.
You have to check that out. That sounds interesting.
Yeah, I'll put a link in the video description. I appreciate the call very much. And anytime people recommend things or a video, I'll try to put a link in the comments. So I'll put a link to Vibes of Cosmos, and I'm also going to put links to the Twitter account of that caller and Les Luther. And also, I'm going to check out the new Matrix movie. I'll probably do a review on it.
Yeah, definitely check that out. I like to hear that when you guys do that. But I appreciate it, man, and I enjoy your podcast. And I don't know what time it is yet. It's 2:11 here. I was about to say good night.
Awesome. Well, hey, appreciate the call very much. Thanks again. A lot of people here had nice things to say, and insightful call. Thanks for taking the time, and call back anytime.
All right, thanks, man. I appreciate it. Bye-bye.
All right, awesome. Great callers tonight. On the screen, I have Vibes of Cosmos. If you haven't looked into it, it's worth looking into, because whether or not you agree with it or think it's plausible, it would be kind of an act of denial to claim that there isn't a striking correspondence between the continents that we know and this particular grip of craters on the moon. When I look at the moon, I can point and I can look, I can see it. Doesn't mean I believe it, I don't know it, but I'm just like, wait, that one would be Australia, that would be North, South America, Brazil. It does kind of match. And there's a lot of repetition, a lot of rhyming, a lot of things in nature look like other things, but this to me is too many coincidental alignments. With one little caveat here, if this is true, then there's another continent that they're hiding from us within the area that we would define as the globe. But this idea here, this is from Vibes of Cosmos magazine presentation volume 1. Vibes of Cosmos on YouTube, just that's the name of the channel, easy to find. Highly recommended channel. And another reason I like this channel is that it's all just, it's got great soundtracks. So here's a map of the moon, known continents versus unknown continents. Zareth the Alchemist here in chat says, I like Vibes vids. Phase Polarizer says it's right in our face. Yeah, it's right in our face if this is the case. It really is. As above, so below. Isn't that one of the axioms of the occultists? Pippi Langstruff says, think of something, and it pops up on someone else's phone. Interesting. I haven't had that happen. Although if I think of somebody, they will show up in my life. I have to actively block people out of my mind sometimes. I swear it works like that. Tominoid says high-res moon images start looking weird if you mess with the contrast. Yeah, I think it's interesting how you can look at craters that are supposedly 50 miles across, and you can zoom in, and then you look at the Earth from the moon as they represent it, and you can't see features that are 50 miles across. So, like, what gives? I'm sure they have their explanations. The moon's a very fascinating, perplexing topic. I think Vibes of Cosmos is onto something, and even if he's not, let's say he's completely wrong, and everything is as advertised by NASA, etc., even if, it's still remarkable when you just consider the significance of that kind of a coincidental alignment. Zerat says we're all psychic manifestors, we don't realize it. Yeah, I tend to agree. If this is what I think it is, I think we're all somewhat responsible on some level, co-creators, most unconsciously so. And that's why I don't believe that they're going to do the Georgia Guidestone thing. Again, Georgia Guidestones turn 42 on Tuesday. I don't think there's any interest in reducing the human population. Why would they get rid of their greatest resource? Human souls, living souls that they can suck. Because that's pretty much what they do. Let's see, sick of them going back and forth. Jake Paul wants to promote a $60 million fight between Pete Davidson and Kanye West. Better get to Kanye before he goes OJ. That would be an interesting fight. All right, this has been great. Appreciate the calls from everyone. Look at this. This is great. I love this. This is a picture that says it all. Here you have a sad person wearing a mask at a gas pump, trying to pump their gas, even though it already has the sign on it that says out of service. And then her license plate says Build Back Better. Build Back Better is about burning down the system, tearing it all down first. So we're still on that part of this revolution. And it is a revolution. And the term revolution is very pertinent when we're looking at the Copernican revolution, the first time that word was used in the context of political change. But it's a revolution also in the terms of going into this new age, the Great Reset. The Great Reset was timed with the conjunction of Jupiter-Saturn. The last time we had a great conjunction on a winter solstice was 2,000 years ago, when we went to year zero or whatever. So you're like, well, you don't get more reset-y than associating the Great Reset with a celestial event that put us back at zero. So you could consider 2020 to be year zero. In this new system, like the world ended. Congratulations, you survived the end of the world. That was as bad as it's going to get, in my opinion. I have an image here on the screen. It's a couple of obelisks, kind of like the Washington Monument. It says, "Did you know the Vatican is not associated with Christianity? It is an ancient Babylonian pagan cult based on worship of the sun and pagan gods, and billions are unknowingly glorifying." So, yeah, this is true. But what they miss here is that the new obelisk that the Babylonian pagan cult worships is the rocket. That's the new one. That's why I say Pope Elon, and I don't mean it as an exaggeration or a joke when I say that this place is run by this priesthood, warlocks, wizards with OCD that are obsessed with numbers, like that vampire in the Sesame Street. What is it with them and their obsession with numbers? Look, and it goes deep. 52 cards in your playing deck, 52 weeks in a year, 13 cards in a suit to match the lunar months. If you add up all the symbols in a deck of cards, you get 365. It's all encoded because it's part of the same solar cult, but it's a cult. That is, you're not meant to see it. And let me address this one more time. There's an article in the Daily Beast, and it shows you how the media has no ability to self-criticize. They have no insight. Ukraine President Zelensky's, quote, servant of the people on Netflix is shockingly prescient. Shockingly prescient. And what they say here is, Rarely has life so startlingly imitated art. So it's rare. And they're talking about the movie Servant of the People, which they say here is witness to fantasy destined to become reality. So they want you to think that life is following art or something like that, when no, I mean it's more like the art precedes the life. If it's televised, like that's our reality's been rigged, it's been hacked. They hacked it by gaining our trust. I think that's really what it comes down to. You know, the television has supplanted the Bible. The media has become or assumed the role of, I would say, the de facto state religion. And it's global. All the religions of the world all bow down to the same obelisk, the rocket. All the religions of the world, no matter what your religion is, every person in this world accepts, for the most part, except for us, the existence of outer space as advertised. So if you think about it, that's the universal heaven. And how do you get there? Well, we got to maintain a sustainable society. We don't want to anger the sky god and cause a flood. Probably going to have to get vaxxed before you go to Mars. You know, that's probably an obvious one there. I mean, this is all, again, Age of Mars, Age of Horus, the Green World Order, the Great Reset. It's happening. I'm not going to participate. I don't recycle. I'm not goo-blooded. And if you are goo-blooded, you know, I'm not judging. We all have our religion. I mean, that's your religion. That's my point. It's the de facto religion. The de facto religion, how you get saved. And I've been saying this for some time too. I don't believe that there's anything that this is all Psywar. I don't think there's anything other than a schism that they're injecting into society with this issue of the cleansing. It's a holy war. And the holy war isn't about getting rid of a virus. It's about getting rid of super spreaders of what they call malinformation. It's a war on the free thinkers, on perceivers. All right, everyone, it's been great. We'll continue this conversation tomorrow. There are tons of things to talk about. Continue to leave voicemails at 833-311-1984. I'm going to get the 24/7 stream started up here shortly. I'm working on a new series of short videos. That's what's been occupying my time. I want to say thanks to everyone here who's contributed to the channel, to keeping this thing going, both not just the tips, but also the phone calls and the comments and the participation in our Discord server, keeping the think tank great. This is the official Flat Earth International Anthem by Lucifer Tim. Have a great night, and I'll probably start the 24/7 stream shortly after. You'll see replay on the screen if we're not live.
As a mom with kids, a dog, and a full-time job, life can get a little messy.
Okay, I got to pay my bill on SoundCloud, or they're going to get me with darn commercials. That's how they extort. Anyway, again, thanks everyone here keeping the lights on. Join ME Sagittarius Arms Society. Get on the newsletter. And one more thing, if you want to get on the text message alerts, go to infiniteplane.radio. And when you get the replay, or you get the archive links, check below and you'll see the links to a couple of Twitter accounts and a few other things we talked about. All right, anyway, have a great night. This is Lucifer Tim.
Looking pretty serious, synchronizations, cooking up a terror storm. It was always bound to happen.